Thank you very much. Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of our people. Almachtige God, ons bied dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wisheid sal gee en ons motivasie sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkomige te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela ilizwe lethu nabantu balo. Umisele ukulunga kwiphondo lethu. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika, gcina abantwana bayo, khokhela iinkokheli zayo, inike uxolo iAfrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. As has been our practice to date, honorable members will participate in this sitting of the House, both from here in the chamber with the presiding officer and the table staff and via Microsoft Teams. Our standing rules have accordingly been amended to accommodate such hybrid sittings on the House. The honorable members experiencing challenges in connecting to this sitting are required to contact the WCPP ICT colleagues who will assist to resolve their connectivity challenges. Suppose a member of this provincial parliament elects to participate virtually and not from the chamber. In that case, such a member's responsibility is to ensure that he has or she has a good quality data connectivity, good quality audio and video, that there are no disturbances where they are. Members will know that the hybrid system has been functioning well. Poor audio and or video is not attributed to the system, but rather the quality of data connectivity. The media have also been granted access to this MS Teams meeting as guests of the WCPP. However, members of the press may not use the chat room or speak or activate their cameras while the sitting is in progress. If an individual who is not a member of this House activates their mic or video camera, such an individual will be exited from the sitting immediately. I request those here today who are not members of this House to please observe the decorum of the House. For this sitting, language translation services are available in the chamber as usual and on Microsoft Teams via the respective channels. Honorable members participating in this sitting of the House must please access the language translation services via a second device, your cell phone, if you have earphones available. Please use them for the language translation services. Members are also reminded that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings. To this end, I draw the honorable members' attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. But before we continue, I just want to acknowledge the Michelle's Plain SAPS Women's Network that have joined us in the sitting today. You are welcome. Thank you very much. Honorable members, I recognize the Deputy Chief Whip. Member Dakmo.
Thank you very much, Chair. The point of order I would like to raise is under Rule 66, in regard to Rule 3A. Speaker, when you were reading the prayer, I noticed that, or I heard that from the side of the DA benches, there was a cell phone that went off. I think that is not conduct in terms of 66.3A, and I request you to please not only request members of the DA to ensure that they respect the House prayer by having their phones off, but to also actually ask the Chief Whip of the DA to investigate which of their members are to blame. Thank you.
Honorable member, thank you very much. I think the decorum of this House responsibility is with all members. So if we can adhere to that, irrespective of which political party, that is what our communities out there expecting to see from you as leaders. So I'm talking to from both sides of the House that will be the case for this sitting until we end the day. Thank you very much, member. Member America?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, it is my telephone that went off, and I do apologize. It was unintentional. I was not aware, and I deeply regret that it has gone off during the prayer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. That is noted. Member Marang?
Thanks, Chairperson, and good afternoon to everyone present. The Honorable America have now admitted that he can the Honorable Van der Westens please apologize to me because he blamed me as the culprit.
Honorable members,
Elaborate.
that is not a point of order. Let's continue with the business of the day. It's going to be a long sitting if we are going to start on that note. I suspect you'll be here until 9 p.m. if you are going to go in that fashion. So let's continue. I recognize the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I move herewith, notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 20, subsection 1, that precedence be given to firstly the subject for discussion and then questions to the Premier without notice. I so move.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip of Majority Party. Are there any objections to the motion? No objection. Agreed to. The subject for discussion today will now deal with the subject for discussion in the name of Honorable Brinkhays as printed on the order paper. I recognize Honorable Brinkhays.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all the colleagues. Honorable Speaker, poverty in the Western Cape remains at high levels, and recent statistics revealed that the situation is not improving at a satisfactory pace. Cape Town is recognized as a global city and characterized by inequality. We are a province with deep-rooted inequality in the economy, education, and health sectors, which reflect the income of families and their access to well-balanced and regular meals. A 2022 report by the United Nations on the UN Habitat State of the World Cities, Bridging the Urban Divide, made mention that South African cities had income coefficients from 0.69 to 0.75. And at that time, Cape Town's estimated coefficient was 0.69. The most recent figure for 2021 is 0.63, an unacceptable high level according to the United Nations, who describes a coefficient of 0.4 as a reason for concern. The historical urban inequality in South Africa was further entrenched by the racist segregation under apartheid laws. We all know the effects of the apartheid system, which included the restriction on quality education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. The existing spatial development is no different than during apartheid. The townships on the Cape Flats are bursting at its seams with informal settlements and backyard dwellers, characterized by high unemployment and poverty. These are all tangible proof of a city of inequality. Cape Town is South Africa's second largest city with a population of more than 4.7 million. Our unemployment rate has increased from 18.3 in 2011 to 29% in 2021, which exacerbated due to the COVID pandemic. Statistics South Africa calculated an unemployment rate of 57.9% in 2021. Food insecurity. In the Western Cape, food insecurity is more common among Black, African, and colored communities. An estimated 53% Africans and 41% coloreds do not have adequate access to food. Just over a year ago, the legislature released figures to a question by the Honorable Member Baku Force that 13% of children in the Western Cape are living in households that have insufficient food. 21% of children live in households where meals were skipped due to inefficient funds or resources for food. Sadly, not only are children affected by insufficient food, but also the elderly, who in most cases rather see that their grandchildren have food to eat. Young children are stunted due to lack of nutritious food, and they become more susceptible to childhood diseases. We see on public roads how children are forced to scurry for food. In doing so, they are exposed to sexual abuse and exploitation. Proactive solutions. Speaker, identify women in communities involved in feeding schemes. Many of them do not have land to grow food and the necessary resources to maintain their humble gardens which support their feeding schemes. Women living on farms should be provided with land to plant their own food and sell to the local markets or to support feeding schemes in the area. Provincial government must give substantial support to implement more feeding schemes in poor areas, provide land and agricultural startups. The ordinary auntie who makes soup or food or hand out sandwiches should be recognized and given the necessary assistance for her selfless deed. Introduce agriculture as a subject from primary school level. Teach young children to grow food. Schools that do have food gardens lack support with resources to help them maintain the gardens. The current feeding schemes are not sufficient, as it's only enough food to relieve hunger, and school food gardens are another way to provide nutritious meals to its learners.
Honorable Member Brinkhays, can you conclude?
Thank you, Speaker. Food gardens at schools continue to receive support with agricultural startups even during holidays. Early childhood development.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
I now recognize Honorable Member van der Westhuizen.
Agbare voorsitter, ek wil graag die agbare Brinkhuis bedank dat hy hierdie mosie na die huis gebring het. Veral in Augustus, wat algemeen bekend geword het as Vroue Maand. Suid-Afrika se ekonomie was vir baie jare tot en met die ontdekking van ons minerale rykdom gebou op landbou as die grootste bydraer tot die ekonomie. En alhoewel nywerhede, die finansiële sektor en veral deesdae die rekenaarwêreld intussen groot werkgewers geword het, bly landbou uiters noodsaaklik. Die hele wêreld sit met die uitdaging om jaarliks meer voedsel te produseer vir 'n groeiende wêreldbevolking. Die vraag na voedsel en veral bekostigbare voedsel is 'n immer stygende uitdaging en Suid-Afrika is bevoordeel om een van die netto-produsente van voedsel te kan wees. Verstedeliking is 'n realiteit en in die proses word al meer mense die geleentheid ontneem om grond te besit waarop kos verbou kan word. Die Wes-Kaapse Departement van Landbou het daarom oor die afgelope aantal jare baie opleiding, hulp in die vorm van grondontledings, toepaslike saad, toerusting en advies verleen aan gemeenskapstuine. Tot 'n groot mate produseer hierdie tuine voedsel vir eie gebruik, maar ook vir gemeenskapsorganisasies soos crèches, skole en so meer. In die meeste gevalle is hierdie tuine relatief klein. Tog vind duisende mense reeds baat by die vars, gesonde produkte, meestal groente, wat hierdie tuine produseer. Dit is waarom die Departement van Landbou hierdie jaar alreeds 700 nuwe voedseltuine ondersteun, met 66% van diegene betrokke by die bestuur van die tuine, wat vroue is. Die vestiging van klein, intensiewe groentetuine is nie uniek tot Suid-Afrika nie. Ek is so wat 40 jaar gelede die eerste keer bekend gestel aan Nederlandse volkstuinen, voorheen bekend in die armtye selfs as koeltuinen of allotments. Nederland beslaan maar so wat 3,4% van die Suid-Afrika se oppervlakte. En tog is daar in Nederland 240.000 van hierdie geregistreerde tuine. Waar die aanvanklike doel was om gesonde voedsel vir hoofsaaklik eie gebruik en ruilhandel te produseer, het die bewerking van sulke stukke grond verskuif na die ontspannings- en terapeutiese waarde en die persoonlike vreugde wat mense daaruit put om iets, in hierdie geval vir plante te sorg en te sien hoe dit groei. Daar is gevolglik 'n lang waglys vir hierdie tuine of stukkies grond. Maar gemeenskapstuine is nie beperk tot Nederland nie. Ons sien dit ook tot 'n meerder of mindere mate in baie ander lande, soos Frankryk, Duitsland, Engeland en Kanada. Met meer en meer mense wêreldwyd wat noodwendig op kleiner stukke grond en in woonstelle gehuisves moet word, is dit belangrik dat meer entiteite, en ek verwys hier na SANRAL, Propnet van Transnet en die Nasionale Departement van Openbare Werke as maar sommige voorbeelde, meer van hulle grond beskikbaar sal stel vir gemeenskapstuine. Die staande komitee op landbou, omgewingsake en ontwikkelingsbeplanning het onder andere al verneem van die hoë terapeutiese waarde wat tuinbou vir mense inhou. Tuinbou is ook dikwels 'n aktiwiteit wat ingesluit word in die rehabilitasie van middelafhanklikes, gevangenes en as deel van die herstelproses vir pasiënte met geestesongesteldhede. Tuine wat goed onderhou en deeglik bewerk word, kan ook 'n groot bydrae lewer om die omgewing te verfraai. My waarnemings klop met die van die agbare Brinkhuis, naamlik dat vroue dikwels diegene is wat die leiding neem in die versorging van hierdie tuine. En daarvoor het ek groot waardering en respek. Maar voorsitter, deur u aan die agbare Brinkhuis, ek tel in sy mosie op dat hy vroue hoofsaaklik sien as persone wie se bydrae beperk is tot primêre landbou. Dat dit sy begeerte is om vroue te sien as die mense wat die fisies harde werk moet doen om in die tuine te werk. Die Demokratiese Alliansie se droom vir vroue is egter baie groter as dit. Ons sien 'n toenemende getal suksesvolle vroue entrepreneurs in die veel groter sekondêre landboubedrywe. Dit is waar die grootste werksgeleenthede wag. En ons het verskeie pragtige voorbeelde van vroue in ons provinsie wat besig is om hulle merk te maak in sekondêre landbou. Te veel om op te noem. Ek kan verwys na die ikoniese wynmaker Ntshiki Biyela of Natasha Williams met haar eie wyn genaamd Lily van Saron of Carmen Stevens van Carmen Stevens Wyne. Volgens berigte die eerste swart Suid-Afrikaner wat die kuns van wynmaak formeel studeer het. Die Wes-Kaapse Departement van Landbou het dan ook al kompetisies aangebied waar spesifiek erkenning verleen is aan vroue entrepreneurs in landbou en waar minister Ivan Meyer die pryse oorhandig het. Ek sluit af met nog 3 voorbeelde van die baie vroue se prestasies in landbou. Dis die tipe rolle wat die DA vir vroue in landbou sien. The first woman I would like to mention is Ms. Jackie Goliath. Ms. Goliath is the co-founder of Define Nursery, a 100% black-owned business. They've expanded from a back garden nursery, focusing on only 2 species of fynbos, to a premises of 22 hectares in the Paarl area. This allowed them to expand production of the nursery, increase employment, and gave them the opportunity to diversify the business. Define currently employs 22 permanent and 15 casual workers. Define is now also producing and growing plums. Lavender plants are grown and packaged especially for Woolworths and other commercial nurseries, as well as well-known wine farms count amongst their clients. The second woman is Ms. Marlene Hoekstra. Ms. Hoekstra has been involved, together with her late father, with the growth of the Hoekstra Group for many, many years. Ms. Hoekstra was appointed the new CEO when her father passed away in January 2022. The group is currently farming on 14 farms covering 350 hectares. Over the years, she has developed an extensive knowledge of the industry. She played a leading role in the deregulation of the South African fruit industry, and Marlene was one of the founder members of Independent Fruit Growers and Exporters. She also realized that the company would need to build a dedicated cold store to manage their future exports, and Noord Agter Parel Koelkamers became the first producer-owned cold store in the industry. The last of the 3 ladies that I want to particularly highlight today is Ms. Ilse Rutherford, Managing Director of Compagnie's Drift, a wine bottling and temperature-controlled storage facility on Baden-Powell Drive. Ms. Ilse Rutherford obtained her diploma in marketing from Stellenbosch College in 1996, while I was serving as the deputy principal of that college. I'm therefore particularly proud of her. She hails from Pinel, joined the wine industry in 1997 and then served in wine exports for 4 years. She's been the managing director of Compagnie's Drift since 2012. Compagnie's Drift is currently serving about 60 clients, including some of the best-known wine farms in the Boland. Ms. Rutherford was named top female entrepreneur for agro-processing by the National Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in 2014. And what did she do with her prize money? She donated part of her prize money to establish a vegetable garden at Compagnie's Drift, from where currently various preserves and other products such as pickled onions, beetroot chutney and chili sauce, amongst others, are produced. Chair, Honourable Brinkhuis, we fully support the proposal that even more land should be released for community gardening projects. I assume that the Department of Agriculture, I assume that you know that the Department of Agriculture is standing by to support in expanding these initiatives. But I trust that you will join us in the Democratic Alliance and share our dream of tens of thousands of women in the Western Cape joining the ranks of the excellent women that are already succeeding as entrepreneurs in agriculture. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member Baku Force.
Enkosi Mhlali ngaphambili. During this Women's Month, Speaker, and the ANC welcomed this debate today sponsored by the Honourable Brinkhuis. For once, we can discuss an issue which speaks to the very heart of we are here representing the people of the Western Cape than cheap politics, point scoring. The reality, Speaker, of course, is that this provincial government can offer no substance, and yet what this discussion calls upon today is substance. This discussion is in line with what I consistently raise in Social Development Standing Committee. And my MEC, Honorable Shana Fernandez, knows what I stand for. I stand for the poor. Mphathiswa, I will repeat again, take care of our poor people. And I've been raising this. Imibutho esekuhlaleni incedisana nokulwa ukuhlukunyezwa kwamanina kwakunye neminye elwa nendlala nokhuseleko nokutya. Uninzi lwale mibutho lukhokelwa ngamanina athi ke achukumiseke ngowubona iingingqi abahlala kuzo ngokuba kugcwele abantwana ezitaratweni ngenxa yolamba. Abafazi soloko ingabo abangamaxhoba ngenxa yolamba kweentsapho zethu. Speaker, the DA rejects identity politics. It rejects race and class, and yet in its own growth for jobs strategy, it speaks of women economic empowerment. But we know this is just ticking the box. The DA and this provincial government pays lip services to real women economic empowerment, while the growth for jobs strategy speaks of women empowerment, more especially in the economy, especially in the local production of the key renewable and energy component. It is absolutely quiet on the role and participation of women in the agriculture sector. When it comes to the water resilience program, this provincial government relates or relegates women to economic sectors such as childcare facilities, and personal care industries. This is what the DA thinks of women, childcare and makeup. Again, the growth for jobs strategy points out of the role of women is a micro business, but as an example, concise from the DA, it's only the ECDs that women can work at. For the provincial government and the DA, women can't own farms. Women can't run farms. Women must only take care of children and look pretty. This DA, Speaker, the issue discussed here today does not only speak to the transformation of our provincial economy, which is a must. It does not only speak to the agricultural sector, which remains one of the backbones of our provincial economy and which must diversify if it were to survive. But land for agriculture purpose, startups and community gardens speaks to the very issue of food security, and women continue to bear the brunt of food insecurity. In recent years, statistics indicated that 17% of the population of the Western Cape had food insecurity. Just over 7% of people in the Western Cape is said to suffer for food access, which is severe inadequate. Chairperson, the Western Cape remains one of the few provinces in South Africa, in fact, one of two. The other being the Northern Cape, where agriculture employment outnumbers subsistence farming, and while the province has one of the biggest commercial agriculture sectors in the country, only 2.7% of households are involved agricultural activities, the lowest in the country. This means that there is a huge gap between commercial farming in our province and those pursuing agriculture activity for food security or subsistence and purposes. Deputy Speaker, this means that, in other words, our system in the Western Cape forces our people to buy food instead of growing or farming it themselves. According to the national statistics, the Western Cape remains one of the lowest provinces where women benefit from land distribution, whether it is in terms of the number of farms, hectares, or numbers of women beneficiaries. Mhlali ngaphambili, the ANC is consistent in this house and saying agriculture plays one of the most significant sector in which growth and sustainable livelihoods can take care. When we debated the doomed to fail growth for the job strategy, the Honorable Nkondlo pointed out agriculture must be taken more seriously by this provincial government. All the evidence so far shows that agriculture is not taken serious by this provincial government, more especially when it comes to the black farming people and women at large. The budget allocated by this province to agriculture remains one of the lowest in the country. If this provincial government took agriculture seriously, it would be promoting the role that women play in sector. As the Honorable Nkondlo pointed out, if this provincial government took agriculture seriously, it would diverse of sector more African.
Honorable Member, may you take your seat, please? Honorable Member, is that a point of order?
House Chairperson, I would like to find out whether the member is willing to take a question.
We want to listen here. You are wasting my time.
Honorable Member.
In her budget, as the Honorable Nkondlo pointed out, in this provincial government took agriculture serious, it would be diverse. The sector more African colored and Indians farm owners, more ownership of farm workers of farms, and yes, more women on farms owners. In her budget vote address to the National Assembly, Minister Thoko Didiza highlighted what the ANC national government is doing to ensure more involvement of women in the agricultural sector. In particular, she mentioned the blended finance facility with the industry, development corporation, and the land bank, which created jobs, of which 30 and 33% of the jobs created respectively when the
Honorable member, conclude. Your time is up.
Thank you, Deputy Chair or Chair of the session. When we debated the doom of the growth job strategy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Honorable
much, the
member.
Deputy Speaker of the session.
I'm going to continue. Honorable Kasim.
Yagnika, ne?
The South African agricultural sector plays a significant role in contributing to the country's GDP. Similarly, the Western Cape remains the leading exporter of primary agricultural products, and its economy heavily relies on the sector. However, the majority of women in the province, especially our African and coloured women, remain excluded from benefiting financially from the sector compared to their white counterparts. Our African and coloured women in the Western Cape are mostly used as seasonal farm workers, where they work for about 6 to 7 months in a given year, and then thereafter these services are no longer needed until the following year. Whilst the importance of food security in the province cannot be overstated, there's also a need for an economy that benefits everyone irrespective of gender and race. It is true that the majority of women in the Western Cape are involved in food gardens compared to men. However, the majority of these food gardens are mainly for subsistence as opposed to commercial gain. And whilst they respond to the issue of food security, they somewhat fall short generally in alleviating poverty. The downside about farming for subsistence is that whilst one can put food on the table, the same person still remains poor as they are unable to afford the forever rising price of electricity, municipality rates, and other necessities of life. The majority of townships in the province are congested with little to no land for one to run a food garden big enough to produce fruits and vegetables that can be used for both family consumption and surplus sold in markets. The reality is that this DA-led government is happy with our African and coloured women, or specifically people, to only involve themselves with smaller food gardens than to own farms and also benefit financially from the agricultural sector. In conclusion, the majority of people in this DA-led province are still stuck in colonial ways of thinking along the lines that few white population must own the majority of land, whilst majority of African and coloured population must be excluded and turn work on white farms as nothing other than seasonal farm workers earning wages which account to literally nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Seleku.
Hlala kwendlu manibulele ngelishwa ke andizungena kwezopolitiko ngoba lo mba sithetha ngawo ubaluleke kakhulu, so kubalekile ke ezopolitiko ke silibeke calanye. House Chairperson, thank you to Member Brankes for bringing this debate to the House, especially during Women's Month. House Chairperson, much has been said and written about the challenges women, especially women from disadvantaged communities, face in our country. Challenges that range from the horrible prevalence of gender-based violence to the more subtle but equally real challenge of glass ceilings women in the corporate world still experience when competing with men for senior positions. House Chairperson, these challenges are reflected in the latest employment statistics released by Stats SA this week. Unemployment for men actively seeking employment has gone down to below 30%. Unemployment for women actively seeking employment has increased to 35.7%. House Chairperson, let us reflect a moment on the fact that women of South Africa are grappling with these challenges whilst at the same time being devoted grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and wives in our communities. So as a South African man, I want to acknowledge all the women in my life, but also in my country. Thank you for representing the better half of us. House Chairperson, in a 2021 research study on gender and environment by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, found that Globally, women are disproportionately affected by climate change, deforestation, land degradation, desertification, growing water scarcity, and inadequate access to sanitation. The research found that COVID-19 pandemic made these gender inequalities even worse. The research found that a gender-focused response in areas such as land, water, and transport management would allow for more sustainable and inclusive economic development and lead to the increased well-being of entire societies. House Chairperson, the above is from international research, but it also holds true to South Africa. Land reform and food security are both important projects of South Africa. But let us not restrict women to food gardens and land reform projects. It is my belief that we should focus on removing the stumbling blocks that are perpetuating gender inequalities we have in our society. We need an enabling environment that will allow women equal opportunity to access land, or for small-scale female farmer to progress through the agricultural value chain as far as their individual aspiration and talent allow. Women in South Africa has the constitutional right to be free from the chains of gender, race, or cultural beliefs we sometimes bind ourselves with. House Chairperson, when we talk about farmers, big or small, male or female, we are also talking about Mother Nature. Climate change, water security, water quality, air quality are environmental challenges which affect our entire society. Food gardens, small-scale farmers, and commercial farmers all need access to clean water. The department does alienate clearing in our catchments. We cannot differentiate which category of farmer is going to benefit from the improved downstream ecology, but they all depend on it. And as a government, it is our responsibility to protect and manage our natural resources for the whole of society, while at the same time remove the recognized stumbling blocks for women. I would like to commend the work of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning is doing to address gender inequality, while at the same time focusing on managing and protecting our natural environment to the benefit of our entire society. The department developed a 2020 to 25 gender equity strategic framework with annual targets for all 5 years. They have committed to mainstream gender responsiveness into our culture, governance, and practice, and are systematically working through each of our discipline areas. On a more practical level, Cape Nature is promoting opportunities for women through its participation in the expanded public works program. Cape Nature in 2022-23 created 608 employment opportunities through this program. A total of 60 communities benefited from the program, with majority of the employment opportunities being created in rural towns and communities close to our surrounding the entities protected areas. For many families, these opportunities present a lifeline to sustain households and actively participate in the local economy. In terms of the vulnerability targets we require for the EPWP, Cape Nature achieved 60% for women, whereas the target was 60%. 76.7 for youth, target was 55, and 2.4 for persons with disability, target being 2%. Furthermore, 16 work integrated learners and graduate interns were appointed during the reporting period, exceeding the target of 15. House Chairperson, I conclude, it is Women's Month, and this government recognizes the enormous role women fulfill in our society. We also recognize research that shows women often suffer disproportionately from social and environmental challenges. My call to this Parliament today is that this and our similar debates should not be mere lip service to gender equality. Let us live gender equality when we go home tonight. Let us treasure and acknowledge our mothers, wives, and daughters. With those words, thank you very much. Enkosi, Bayadanki, Happy Women's Month.
Thank you very much, Member Seleku. I now recognize Member de Villiers.
Thank you, Chairperson of the House. The Good Party supports Al Jamaah's call for land and agricultural startups to be released to especially women who are involved in food gardening and community gardening projects and to women living on farms. It is easy to say that the Western Cape has the highest percentage of Black female farmers. But what does that percentage mean? Let's look at the reality. Of the more than 40,000 farmers in South Africa, only 3,900 are Black. Of those, only 234 are in the Western Cape and 40 are female. The Western Cape is also the province that leases out the least of its agricultural land, only 5%. Much of the talk around urban agriculture in Africa deals with poverty, hunger, and accessing food. 40% of Africa's urban residents practice some agricultural activity. These activities include producing eggs, fruit, or milk, but the majority from farming vegetables. Doing so helps to buffer these households against seasonal shortages or food price hikes. Researchers about urban agriculture in the Western Cape has found that female farmers use more of their produce to feed their families and those in need than male farmers. This means that the food grown by women is more accessible to those without the money to buy it. I thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Marek.
Speaker, food gardening is not something new which we have to debate here at length for hours. It's already Minister Mayer's project, and we have visited several of the projects. He's taken a committee on agricultural committee on sightseeing. Some of them are doing very well, others not so well. What we need to do now is to debate the necessity and value of food gardens only to analyze its successes and failures and best practices. First of all, we need to determine and recognize certain things. Do they have prior knowledge or learning of food gardens? Is enough land and water available and the size of the land? Should land be held in trust, or do we make use of the people's own backyards? Is water available? What is the selection criteria? Do we interview the people in the project? Did we make an assessment? Did we close the gaps in their abilities, if there are non-abilities? Did we formulate an outcomes assurance plan or proactive interventions to ensure healthy gardens? Do they have sufficient equipment? Are we to attend to the project? Is there a project manager? Can we make use of Elsenberg Training College to act as a project manager? Candidates selected must be onboarded onto the program and supervised continuously. We need management by objectives. We cannot just give a person a lot of seed and say, now listen, just put this in the ground and you put water on it and then you are going to have food for the rest of the year. It's not going to happen. Food gardening without sufficient training, with a necessary assessment of the people who qualify, sufficient land, sufficient water, will end up as a failure. No matter all our nice lofty ideals, beautiful speeches, it will be a failure if we do not have a checkbook here to check it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member Marek.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I welcome this debate on the important role of women in agriculture as we commemorate Women's Month. In the Western Cape, food gardens are just one of the myriad programs through which Provincial Department of Agriculture is uplifting our communities and especially women.
Honorable Member Marek, can you take your seat, please? Honorable Member, you were standing up. Did you need my attention? Okay. Thank you very much. You may take your seat. My apologies, Honorable Member, you may continue.
Thank you, House Chairperson. As I was saying, the Provincial Department of Agriculture is uplifting our communities, and especially women who are the bedrock of these communities. In this financial year alone, the department will support 3,000 food gardens throughout the province, helping to build food security during this tough economic period. Many of these gardens are managed by women who have taken the lead and upskilled themselves to feed their communities. But House Chairperson, that is only the tip of the iceberg as far as women's involvement in agriculture is concerned. More and more women are entering the industry through the support of the world-class agricultural education provided by Elsenburg Agricultural Training Institute. They are more prepared to succeed in their chosen field. In the 2021-22 financial year, 69 bursaries were awarded to female students at Elsenburg, and of the 197 students who graduated in February, 66 were female. That's not to say that there isn't a whole lot more that needs to be done to empower women in agriculture, but it's also demonstrative of the DA remaining committed to unlocking the talent of women within our communities. This will take us, our agriculture and agri-processing industry, from strength to strength. House Chairperson, boosting exports is a key aspect of the Growth for Jobs strategy. This whole of government approach will see us decisively tackle unemployment in the province. It's not a tick box exercise. The DA-led Western Cape is already on course. The latest quarterly labour force survey demonstrated this, as our unemployment rate has been reduced by 6 percentage points in just 1 year. Over the past 20 years, the province has shown robust growth in exports, almost doubling its share of national exports by value from 8% in 2000 to 15% in 2021, something that I believe the ANC clearly and deliberately fails to acknowledge. Roughly half of the province's exports consist of agricultural products, including citrus, wine, and stone fruit. Through G4J, DDAT, and Westgrow are working tirelessly to expand market access to more of our producers. This is being done through initiatives to support export councils for all our major exports and to get these councils up and running where they do not exist, putting our producers in the best possible position to create jobs. Of course, House Chairperson, to physically get products into markets, you need a high-functioning port. And unfortunately, high-functioning and Transnet do not belong in the same sentence, especially when it comes to running the Port of Cape Town. But thankfully, DDAT has invested heavily in research to improve the port and stands ready to work with Transnet as well as the private sector to get the necessary infrastructure in place and move cargo at maximum capacity. The recently released Transporter Congestion Report has already identified many of the problems of the port and contains evidence-based recommendations on how to address them. House Chairperson, I would now like to take a moment to reflect on an issue that will have a detrimental impact on the growth of our exports as well as the empowerment of our women, namely the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which the ANC so love. Contrary to my colleagues in the ANC, AGOA affects every single person in agriculture, male or female, farmer or farm worker, because this tariff-free market access, which promotes exports to the US market, cannot be allowed to lapse. That is why I have been engaging with Minister Patel to brief the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on the details of these negotiations. But true to ANC form, the Minister has failed to meet and engage the Provincial Standing Committee in the legislature despite countless invitations. We need clear blue water on what steps he is taking to prevent this province's titanic agricultural industry from sinking. His lack of willingness to meet is in no way reassuring. Of course, the reason our inclusion in a renewed AGOA is in doubt is that the ANC tacitly supports Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, something that is directly at odds with US foreign policy interests. The ANC would rather act out of a historical sense of loyalty and fear of Russians than do what is best for the people of South Africa. We will not allow the ANC's moral bankruptcy to cost us thousands of jobs. The DA will make sure that DTIC is accountable to the elected representatives of the people of this province. the US Senate has moved to commission a report from the Secretary of Defense in consultation with the Secretary of State and other relevant federal departments and agencies that assesses the extent to which South Africa's foreign policy poses a threat to US national security interests. Surprise, surprise, this shows us that South Africa's current foreign policy is posing a significant threat to our trade relationship with US and our inclusion in AGOA. While tariff advantage with AGOA is relatively small, the scaling of additional cost is significant. So what this means is that without this advantage of AGOA, tariffs on US agri-exports would have skyrocketed from 26 million to 267 million. That's huge. Urgent clarity is therefore needed to instill investor confidence, allay concerns of the affected industries, and protect thousands of jobs of women and men alike in the province. House Chairperson, if we look into the future of farming, we see the advancement of agricultural tech and that it will have a massive advantage for reaching peak efficiency. That is why the Provincial Department is already training farmers and officials in the use of fruit look and drones to monitor soil conditions and crop yield. 9 women have already been trained as expert drone operators by the Department of Agriculture. But House Chairperson, that is the DA difference. We have laid the groundwork so there are more opportunities for women to enter the agri-industry, innovate and thrive. By creating more opportunities for women in agriculture, we will enable more young women to succeed. We create more role models. We create more opportunities. The DA is empowering women to be leaders in agriculture as their success benefits everyone. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member Maran.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. The Honorable Murray Chair, the Honorable Murray spoke about exports from the Western Cape to overseas markets. And last time when I've listened to the MEC, he spoke about 50% of South Africa's exports comes from the Western Cape. And then she spoke about AGOA, where they ran straight to the Americans. The day before yesterday, the Honorable Van der Westhuizen released a statement on the West Coast and the damages causes to agriculture. And he then asked the president of this country, come to the rescue. Why then you run to the EU as you have run to the Americans on the AGOA issue? Now you want the president of this country to step in. No. When we ask the Honorable Murray, when we ask your MEC,
Honorable,
when we ask your MEC about the exports, 55%.
It's going to be difficult if you have a conversation with the
Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. So Chair, when the MEC of Member Murray spoke about the 55% that comes from the Western Cape, and we then posed the question, both written and oral, asking, how many of this 50% are black? How many of this 55% are black women? The MEC's response was, I don't know. He don't know because he don't want to know. He don't want to know how many land, how many black farmers, how many black people, how many black women are in agriculture in the Western Cape. I now hear the Honorable Van der Westhuizen spoke about 3 women. In September, the Honorable Van der Westhuizen have now organized an oversight visit to the West Coast because white farmers are affected. Never have I heard about the oversight visit to farms of these 3 women that they have mentioned now. And even for farm workers. Never have I heard that Chair. The same Honorable Van der Westhuizen, a couple of years back, in a standing committee meeting saying that the DA have done an audit. And the outcome of that audit is that black people don't want land. All that they want is jobs. All that they want is jobs. And then one of the top leaders the MEC, who is part of the federal leadership in 2019, when they draw up the manifesto of the DA, said there that farm workers should only earn a minimum wage. And many of the farm workers, most of them are women, a minimum wage which is equal to the old age pension grant, a slave wage. This is what they think of black people, black women in agriculture. Speaker, this speaker, I want to start off again welcoming this discussion introduced today by the Honorable Brian Gayson. But before I go that far, I want to acknowledge women that I have invited to the sitting. Longiswa Zulu, Phyllis Beya, they are here looking for an opportunity to get into the agricultural sector. But there is no hope in the Western Cape government. But when we ask them about land reform, the MEC's response is, but it's a national competency. It is not ours. We don't deal with land reform. As the Honorable Baku pointed out, it is discussions such as these which expose the lip service and service delivery by the DA in this provincial government. Lip service. Today, all we got again from the DA speakers is lip service. Take, for example, the annual report of the Department of Agriculture, and we await with excitement this year's annual reports. Take, for example, in the last annual report of the Department of Agriculture, when they spoke about women empowerment, and then they speak, human capital development programs, not to upskill women in agriculture startups, not to build women capacity to develop community food gardens, but to send our mothers and daughters to the subsistence abuse awareness and prevention projects. That is wat hulle dink van ons mense, van ons moeders en van ons sisters. We welcome the labor rights projects that are also targeting women, and we know the rural youth intervention. Both of these do not have the detail, lip service. We remain concerned that less than a third of enrollments in the farming group skills training program are women, while only a third of students graduating in February 2022 were women. Why is this important? Because it is this program that is supposed to equip women, young people with skills in ventures such as agriculture startups. Sub-program 3.3 of the department's deals with food security, which must include aspects of food gardening and community gardening projects. How many food gardens, promotions, and awareness programs did the department roll out? 2, according to the annual report. 2, only 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 2. The reality, Speaker, is, like the Honorable Baku first pointed out, this Department of Agriculture pays lip service to women and their involvement in the agricultural startups, food gardening, and community projects. We see this in the details of the annual reports, and we need to look no further. Indeed, the MEC will complain and blame the MEC. He always blames the MEC for everything, but he refuses to admit that his department makes no provision for women and their involvement in community food gardens. If only he would for once thank the ANC-led national government for CAS. Because whatever is done in this province for women in agriculture is thanks to national government CAS program. Without CAS in the Western Cape, women in agriculture will continue to be relegated by this provincial government as being subsistence abusers in our province and farm workers. In its budget, the department admits that participants in the Premier's advancement of youth will not be paid from the department's coffers or even from the Premier's coffers. No, participation by young people from the Department of Agriculture in a whole Premier's program will be funded by national government. In the same budget, the MEC Department of Agriculture cut the food security budget by over 1/3, 34%. The program that must provide and ensure community food gardens, never mind the inclusion of women, cut by 1/3. So what are we really getting here today is lip service, nothing more. Whatever is said by the DA, whatever is said by its MEC is not matched in the annual report. It's not matched in the budget. lip service. The MEC department will not support women. The department will not support women and getting them into agriculture startups. They will not support family and community food gardens and involvement in women in these, because it is the practice of the department to support large, white, commercial farmers, the bulls. They are not interested in women and community food gardens. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Maran. I now recognize Honorable Minister Ivan May.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I want to welcome the members in the gallery, but I want to address them so that they don't leave this house with a misunderstanding and absolute confusion, because here is the Constitution. All the members in this house, as well as my friend, Honorable Member through you, Mr. Klaas, took an oath of office. This oath of office, together with that, we have standing rules of this house, we have a provincial constitution, and we have a national constitution. Absolutely clear that it is the responsibility of the national government, according to the constitution, that they must allocate land to people. And there is a section 25 in the constitution. They have tabled expropriation of land to make it available. And they are the majority in the House. In the national parliament, the ANC is the majority. So with the having a majority, and they fail in this execution of this clause, that tells you that this people is nowhere where it comes to land reform. They took an oath of office, and I am on the record that they took an oath, and in terms of this oath, they said this is the responsibility.
Minister, may you take your seat? Honorable Minister, can you take your seat, please? Honorable members, interjection is allowed, but we cannot have the self-appointed commentators for every speaker. So if you can allow the minister to debate so that those people that are connected online also can hear him and not hear you as you interject, we will appreciate. I think they will appreciate that. Minister, you may continue.
Honorable Chair, I want to thank Honorable Member Brinkhuis for this topic that he brought here in this debate. I want to thank him for raising a very important matter of food security in the Western Cape. Food insecurity and hunger are realities and affecting the poor communities. My honorable colleague, the Minister of Social Development, Minister Fernandez, are frequently reminding us of the issues of well-being and dignity and the shortage of food and hunger in the communities. I also want to thank Honorable Member Brinkhuis for raising the issue of more agricultural schools, and I think he brings a new dimension, and I want to thank him. He says that we need also to start not only at primary and secondary school, he says starts earlier, and I want to thank him for that contribution. But I think, Honorable Member, the members of this House has highlighted the importance of the role of women as it is in this debate. We know that agriculture in this province is 11%, 4% primary agriculture, but there are more opportunities for women in secondary agriculture, 7%. That's where the real money is, that's where the real wealth is, and so we certainly want women in that. But women are leading in agriculture, Honorable Chair. Let me start with my own department. The Deputy Director General, Dr. Ilse Trautmann, is a respected scientist responsible for managing 7 world-class research farms in the Western Cape. I am proud of her contribution. She also ensures that demand-led research responds directly to the needs of the agricultural sector. Agriculture and science, agriculture is the science and the science needs research. Dr. Noluvuyo Magatla is a respected veterinarian.
May you take your seat? There's a raised hand of Member Kama. Member Kama, I recognize you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I had raised my hand even from the start when the Minister was introducing his speech. I want to check, Chair, is the MEC prepared to take a question?
Minister?
Not today, but tomorrow. Honorable Deputy Director General is a respected scientist, but also Dr. Noluvuyo Magatla is a respected veterinarian and responsible for ensuring animal health in the Western Cape. She leads a team of dedicated state vets and understands the importance of biosecurity and the link between animal health and human health, and therefore the promotion of One Health. Agricultural economist, fantastic. Member Baku Baku Vos, you know the great work that is being done by Bongiswa Matoti, the head of my agricultural economics in the Western Cape. She supports agriculture-led approach, and we follow the Western Cape, and she is unlocking a lot of opportunities for women. Well, another opportunity is Ms. Asia Peterson. She leads a team of engineers and specialists that ensure that our most important assets, namely water and land and natural vegetation, are protected, well managed, and where necessary, migration measures are conceptualized and implemented. These ladies are not only respected civil servants, but also leaders in their field, and they are also leading agriculture in the Western Cape. Now, I agree, we need more of them. Barine Souls started in the wine industry soon after completing her school. She is now the owner of Tesla Dalt Wines in the Humble and Arde Valley. She exports wine to the USA, to the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Denmark, Japan, Norway, Switzerland, South Korea, and Canada. And I think Honorable Member Klaas must visit the United States. You will find her wine there. Netherlands, you will find her wine there. Denmark, you will find her. Japan, you will find her there. You will find her wine in Switzerland. You will find her wine in South Korea. You will find her wine in Canada. Another honorable member, and I think the Mr. Brunkhuis is familiar with Wadia Japi. Never imagined that selling their produce to friends and family will start a lucrative business. And I think Honorable Member Brunkhuis is fully aware of the work that she is doing. In 2005, the family registered Chamomile Farming Enterprises. They started with 100 chickens and are currently having, Mr. Klaas, 10,000 chickens in their shed. Chamomile Farming Enterprise is the biggest client, has the biggest client, ShopRite and Checkers. They also produce eggs for New Light, and Maurice Skin was founded also by a woman, by Maurice, a mother and an entrepreneur, fueled by a desire to use pure and safe ingredients to create a product that could cure her daughter's eczema. From the West Coast, from Clanwilliam. Skincare was founded by her, a mother, an entrepreneur, fueled by a desire to use pure and safe ingredients to create a product that could cure her daughter's eczema. Amazed by the results of her efforts, Maurice then started experimenting with glycerine, soap, and rooibos tea. The entire family followed suit, using the product daily, encouraged by the friends and family continued experimenting with rooibos and quickly found herself supplying soap to a handful of curio shops and guest houses in the small West Coast village of Clanwilliam. Honorable Speaker, House Chair, women are leading in this province. The successful ones are often the results of partnerships and collaboration, working together with municipalities, providing the land. Western Cape Department provide extension and advisory and technical services to make this thing available. But Honorable Deputy Speaker, where I really appreciate the work of Natasha Johannes is a dumping ground next to her plot. And I am so happy that this woman showed us real leadership when she started cleaning the dumping site and then started a garden of hope in Mitchell's Plain to produce fresh vegetables. She started planting it in 2017 and applied for CAS funding. And the same year, the application was approved. Natasha's intention is to start more and helping more people, and I'm so happy for the work that she is currently doing in that field. The land belongs to the city of Cape Town, Honorable Baku Force, and as you know, there's a partnership. We support with irrigation, we support with the seed, the water tanks, the irrigation, the cold storage, we support them, garden tools, and various production inputs like seeds. Honorable member class, when you bring members in the public and say there are opportunities, bring them to my office. Let's sit down and make things happen. Don't bring them here and shout in the parliament because you're not going to help them. Bring them to my office. I'm happy to assist them because that is what we want to do. Honorable member, Langebaan, we have seen in Langebaan a community garden in Langebaan, Mr. de Villiers. Next time when you visit Langebaan, Mr. de Villiers, look to your right, because there you will see an urban agriculture policy that was approved by the Saldanha Bay municipality. The goal was to contribute towards food security and improve the quality of the life there in that community. I visited them numerous times. They're a group of 24 gardeners from the Langebaan community. We entered into a memorandum of agreement, and I met with SPAR. SPAR is even now buying some of their produce. Real empowerment. Honorable Deputy Speaker, House Chair, Christine Jefter, another smallholder farmer, was granted a long-term lease on municipal land by Stellenbosch in 2019. Christine Jefter produced tomatoes, lettuce, brinjals, green beans, and spring onions. And now Mr. Klaas loves his spring onions, which he also supplies to Subtropica Epic Market and locals and surrounding communities. And the business now, Honorable Member, has 6.
Please conclude, your time is up.
Oh, Honorable Chair, I want to ask honorable members in this house, if they know of anybody that wants to start a vegetable garden, my office is downstairs. You can come to my office and we make it happen, because this is a government for the people, a government for you that delivers for you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate on this subject. As per Rule 204, we now come to questions to the Premier without notice. I recognize the Honorable Dartmore. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I recognize you. The questions to the Premier as per order. Online.
Acceptable that the Premier is not here in person. Last week, he, as you know, was not available, and we agreed, and I was called, and one expects that the Premier is present in this house. And I want to say that for noting, and now proceed to my question.
House Chairperson, I rise in terms of Rule 66, but I also rise in terms of the rules governing virtual proceedings, as this is a hybrid session. The Premier is in the House, the same way some ANC members might be online and some ANC members might be in the chamber. There are some DA members that are online and some DA members that are in the chamber, and the Premier has the right to be online. Thank you.
That was not a point of order. You may proceed, Honorable Dartmore.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I think for the record, we must note this is the first time since the Premier became the Premier that he has not been in the House to respond to a question without notice to himself.
You may.
But my question is as follows. Premier, as you are no doubt aware, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Premier and Constitutional Affairs, Honourable Fry, introduced a bill on provincial powers to the said standing committee. And no doubt you are also aware that this is the first time in the history of the legislature that a chairperson of a committee has introduced a bill. My question to you is, do you know the names of the person or persons who drafted this bill on behalf of Honorable Fry?
Oh,
Honorable Minister, Honorable Premier, you may
Thank you
proceed.
very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Yes.
My follow-up question, could you please provide my first supplementary question? I have a second one. Could you please provide the names of those who drafted the bill on Mr. Fry's behalf, given that you have said that you know them? Could we have the names now, please, Premier?
Yes, the lead drafter, Advocate Bishop.
Sorry, didn't hear that.
I'll say
Proceed,
again.
Honorable Premier.
Chair, thank you very much. I'll say again, the lead advocate, Advocate Bishop.
Is who? We
We can't hear you. Can you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Advocate Bishop, the lead advocate.
I heard it.
Sorry, just
Bishop.
Chairperson, you would note that my question was the persons or persons. All that the Premier has provided is the name. He doesn't even give the first name of the advocate. He just says Advocate Bishop. I asked for all the members. So if Advocate Bishop, could we have a first name? And could we have the other, if he's the lead drafter, who are the other members of the committee who drafted this bill for Mr. Fry?
Honorable Premier,
Fry.
I recognize you.
So one would be Alan, one would be probably sitting in there, could have been even some of the members of the National Assembly, but it was led by Advocate Bishop, not by me.
Honorable Dagmo.
Thank you for my second supplementary question. Honorable Premier, what is your comment on the fact that the legal advisor of the provincial legislature at the ad hoc committee established to discuss the Provincial Powers Bill held on Wednesday, the 16th of August, described the bill as spurious with generalizations, unfounded, unsubstantiated, and unresearched, and having politically loaded statements?
Honorable Premier, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. I obviously wasn't present in that standing committee hearing. Obviously, the words that are being used now don't sound very legalistic, and I presume that now what will be asked is for the legal representative of Parliament to supply the legal opinion in writing so that it can be then taken into consideration.
You may proceed, Honorable.
Thank you, House Chair. The person I'm referring to is the legal advisor to Provincial Parliament. He is the legal advisor.
Honorable Dagmo. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, do you want to say something?
Yes, Chair. Chair, in terms of admissibility of questions, in terms of Rule 196, read with Rule 66, we are only allowed to follow up questions.
Is that the point of order or you?
Yes.
Okay.
The two rules that I've quoted was 196 as well as 66, and that is in terms of questions. And when it comes to questions to the Premier, you're only allowed 2 follow-up questions. The Premier has answered 2 follow-up questions, so I'm not understanding why Member Dagmo's allowed a third.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Dagmo. Yes, the Deputy Chief Whip is right. I now recognize Honorable Fry.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable House Chairperson, last week to the Premier. Last week, we saw senseless violence and criminality and devastation leaked in our province as a result of the minibus taxi strike. We have seen damage to public infrastructure, private property, and the intimidation of Western Cape communities, commuters, and residents. My question is, in which ways has the strike action last week impacted the provincial government's position for more devolution, particularly in terms of transport and rail, in order to create a more efficient and integrated public transport system?
Thank you, Honorable Fry. Honorable Premier, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the Honourable Fry for the question. I must say that, yeah, obviously it was a tough time in the province and in the city last week, and of course in the House. I could only get to the House quite late because I was personally in some of those negotiations. Of course, we want to build forward into a public transport system that is fully integrated, that has a backbone of rail, because rail forms the backbone of any public transport system. And right now, with a broken rail system, we end up with the scenario that we have at the moment, where in actual fact, a single private sector, almost through going on strike, can hold a whole economy and citizens to ransom. So, of course, I think the devolution of rail is exactly what should be focused on. We've been trying for a long time. It's been written in a white paper. It's been agreed to by certain ministers, but a lot of ministers change at a national level. Then you get an agreement that there will be a devolution, then there'll be no devolution. And I think the latest minister again comes into office and says there will be no devolution. And officials in her office correct that a week later and say, yes, there will be a devolution. I think that also goes to the reason for the piece of legislation that we are calling for, that enables further devolution of various failure aspects of government at a national level where the ANC can't deliver to the citizens. And we're saying devolve those powers. And I mean, obviously for me, primary would be policing powers. I think PRASA linked to a vision of future mobility. And of course, you started your reference to the strike at the moment. I think as we speak, there's a court challenge happening right now. And that court challenge, of course, I hope that what comes out of it will be that everybody abides by the agreement, and we make that agreement an order of the court. And that we go and find an area where we can negotiate if there are issues around legislation, where we pass a license from provincial legislation, where perhaps fines are not effective enough to get behavior change, and our commuters are at risk. For example, I mean, when we have school kids transported by taxis, and we've seen the horrendous accidents, we really are trying to make our roads safer, and we need to use different mechanisms of the law. Those are the discussions that are now moving in to the taxi task team. But even when we get all of this negotiation sorted out, how are we moving towards that future mobility system? If we think we've got a colliding broken transport system, public transport system on the one side, led by this broken rail, and then on the other side, we've got massively growing populations. So in the not too distant future, we can start to think about a city that is going to be 8 million people. I mean, within the next 7 years, the province is going to go past 8 million citizens. But the city won't be far behind that. And we can't have 15 lanes of road coming into a city centre and 15 lanes going out. We just don't have the space for it. It is not what is happening globally. We're actually seeing freeways being taken away. We've got to see it in city design. And primarily, I think that's why we have to get devolution. We've got to get devolution and more federal powers to provinces that are capable and able. And, this is not only this province. In PRASA and devolution of rail in Gauteng is exactly what the Gauteng government is asking for, exactly what the metros in Gauteng will be part of, and exactly what we would want to do in the city. We would want to make the city and the two city bowl or city region municipalities, being Drakensberg and Stellenbosch, part of an entity that takes over control with the province of the trains, then brings in private sector partners and make sure that we get, as happens around the world all the time, operational trains, and then you back up those trains with taxis, with buses, and then you really get an integrated public transport system where you start to minimize risks if there's the failure in any of those partners, that you can still keep an operational system. And I think the strike last week really showed everyone in the city that you can actually, when you don't have a proper balanced system that is actually moving towards a proper integrated public transport system, you get the failures of what we all experienced. Of course, I'm not going to go into the actual strike itself, because the strike itself raised a whole lot of questions around how picket lines are managed, and how our customers, because the taxi industry's got customers, and those customers are left behind when an immediate strike is called. And we saw people unacceptably, customers of a business, walking home till late in the night, the crime that went with it, and of course the anxiety, mothers couldn't find their children, etc., etc. And I'm very happy that we've got an agreement now to a 36-hour notice for a strike, and that our citizens and our public hold the industry to that agreement. We've built in an escalation system so that we don't end up with the absolute unacceptable situation that we had when a strike is called. And of course, everyone has a right to strike in a country. Our constitution enables that. But what you don't have is you don't have a right to destroy other people's rights. And of course, we mourn the passing of 5 people in that strike. The number of other people who are hurt and injured, we really do feel very, very sorry for them. And then, of course, the mass of structural damage from burning of ambulances and buses and police vehicles, and just unacceptable. And then the structural burning. I was at one of the police stations yesterday that were burnt during that strike out in Stellenbosch. We know that a number of our health facilities took a lot of strain and were damaged badly, let alone bus terminuses and taxi terminuses. This is all stuff that's got to be built back now. But I agree absolutely. We need devolution of power and then a long-term plan for integration of public transport.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Fry.
Thank you, House Chairperson. There have been those, including parties in this House, who have sought to lay the blame of the violence and criminality we've seen last week at the feet of the Western Cape and the City of Cape Town governments, and have attempted to assert that the two spheres of governments are unfairly targeting the taxi industry. What is the Premier's response to these claims, and why is it important that the taxi industry be properly regulated?
Thank you to the Honourable Member Chair. If I can go ahead. I think the first part of the question, I think it goes much deeper than that. There are a lot of areas that I do have huge concerns around the lead up to the strike. I saw lots of political involvement, and I even want to reference damage to municipal buildings that we saw yesterday in Swellendam, and the politics around the process that led to the burning and destruction of infrastructure again. And, I must say that in our province, as we move closer to an election, we actually need political parties to take far more responsibility. We cannot be irresponsible in this process. And even in the middle of the strike, I even think that some of the comments, I think sitting in a meeting with Santaka and seeing even the national minister go exactly opposite to what was discussed shortly prior to that did not help. So you talk about provincial government.
Out of order.
You talk about provincial government and local government. I think national government as well. And my engagement with the president just prior to that specific meeting was that we need to make sure that at least government across all 3 spheres is on the same page. And we've had in the last week a number of meetings with the national minister, with her director general, with our teams, with the legal teams. And there are definitely some issues that are being raised directly with the president through the MEC or the minister and the national minister at the same time on. And we also had a single meeting with the national minister where Minister Ricardo McKenzie actually confronted her on that division because it was unacceptable in the midst of the strike. But you know, so I worry about those political inputs into the system, and we've got to make sure that we deal with those. And I truly hope that the investigations that are happening at the moment, if they do find political interference in any of the strike or the protest action that's happening at the moment, that of course, and knowing that politicians actually swear allegiance to the Constitution, and that they will be arrested and dealt with accordingly, should that be found to be true. Of course, that again says. Sorry?
Premier, are you done? You may continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if that's a point of order.
Yeah, point of order, Chairperson.
There is a point of order. You may continue, Minister Allen. Vanka, I don't see him in the system.
Chair, I'm raising a point of order. I don't know who put my hand down. Chair, can you hear me?
I can't even see you in the system. Wenger. Yeah. Minister Wenger, you may speak, but I don't see
Thank you,
Can
House Chair. One of the honourable members referred to the Premier as arrogant. I would think this would be in breach of the rules. If you could kindly rule on that.
Can you repeat yourself, Minister? Wenger.
It's Wenger, colleague. It's Wenger.
Okay.
Thank you so much, House Chair. It seems that one of the members.
Wenger.
Sorry, yeah.
Wenger
one of the members referred to on the virtual platform referred to the Premier as arrogant, which is in breach of the rules. If you could rule on that, please.
Who's that? Who said that? Who was arrogant, Minister? Can you elaborate?
One of the members on the virtual platform, if you could please revert to the Hansard and make a ruling on this, because this offends the rules.
Thank you, Minister. I didn't hear that, but I will listen to the Hansard and rule if it is necessary. Thank you very much. Premier, you may proceed. If you are done, we can proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think with that interruption, I will take that follow-up question as done.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Fry.
Thank you, House Chairperson. What message does the city and province's approach to the intimidation tactics of the taxi industry send to the public?
Thank you
I
very
recognize you, Premier Allen Windy.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I think obviously at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we've got to make sure that the rule of law is at all times in place. I mean, we find ourselves in this situation because, first of all, a train system doesn't work primarily because the rule of law is not upheld. And people who act illegally can then break a whole system of public transport and nothing happens. They either steal all the cables that run the trains and nothing happens. There's no rule of law and so the trains don't operate. And then there's illegal occupation of the train lines itself. And now it's going to take months, if not years, to get this specific public transport system operational. Then what happens is we have a piece of legislation that enables the taxi industry through a licensing process and then a set of rules.
You may conclude, Premier. Your time is gonna be finished now, please.
Thank you, Chair. So there's a set of rules, 46 of them, and you have to adhere to the rules. And that was what was happening in the process. The strike said, can we review some of those rules? And
Thank you,
there's-
Minister. Your time is up.
And they get stuck.
Thank
We
you,
are busy-
Premier. Sorry for saying Minister. Your time is up. I now we have finished the oral questions. Now, this is the end of question to the Premier. We now goes to the interpellations. I now recognize the Minister of Agriculture. I mean Education. Ooh, you may
Speaker.
proceed, Minister Main.
Speaker, point of order.
You may proceed, Honorable Murray. What is your point of order?
Last sitting, I was on the list to ask a question to the Premier, and they asked for a postponement, and they postponed it to this week, gave me the assurance I will be allowed to ask my question today. Now you again rule that the question time is over.
Honorable Murray, as you know, Honorable, we have time limit when it comes to the questions. 20 minutes has finished. We are done. Can we proceed with the interpellation? Minister, you may rise.
Thank you, Chairperson. The principal of the Tulbagh Combined School retired before the school became a high school at the start of the 2022 school year, which of course created a vacancy. The recruitment and selection process for a new principal was conducted by the school governing body at the end of 2022. Unfortunately, there were some irregularities in the process, and as a result, the district proposed that the process be restarted from the shortlisting stage. The SGB agreed to the proposal that an interview committee comprising of experienced district officials and parent SGB members would conduct the process. The SGB has now withdrawn their agreement, and the department is engaging with the school to resolve the matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I recognize Honorable Syed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I thank the Honorable Minister for the response, but the ANC remains deeply concerned with the situation at Hoër School Tulbagh, where the position of the principal has been vacant since last year. The SGB followed the correct procedures in appointing the new principal in January this year already. However, MEC Mania's department decided to restart the process, as he has alluded to, with an allegedly impartial panel. The WCD has not provided to date any justifiable reasons for restarting the process. They claim that they received complaints from members of the community, but the governing body has never seen or even discussed these complaints. The WCD have also claimed that the Public Service Commission received letters of grievance from community members, but these grievances have not been shared or dealt with by the SGB. The ANC therefore calls on MEC Mania to make these complaints public. Where are they, and why have they not been shared with the school governing body? The school governing body is a legal body elected by parents, and they should be entrusted to follow the mandate to nominate a candidate of their choice. The department is trying to impose its own candidate on the school, and this is a clear violation of the school governing body's autonomy and is undermining democratic process. The acting principal, Mr. Manuel, is a local Tulbagh resident that has taught at the school for many years and has been the acting principal at the school for approximately 1 year. He applied for the vacant principal position and he followed all the processes. He emerged as the preferred candidate and a recommendation was forwarded to the department. The absence, Honourable Chairperson, of a permanent principal has caused a great deal of uncertainty and instability at the school.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member Bartman.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. I would just like to find out from the Minister, given that this affects HR and given that this is legally in law in terms of how particular persons are appointed, why it is so important for recruitment and selection processes to be conducted properly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. At the end of the day, it is very important that procedures be followed, because I think we would all agree in this House that great school leadership is vital to having a great school. And that is why it is imperative that the process to appoint a principal is correct and free of any irregularities, so that our parents can be confident in the leaders of their children's schools. In this case, the process was not free of irregularities, and it's precisely for that reason that our department must act in the best interests of the learners of Tulbagh High School, and why we will continue to engage with the school and, of course, assist to ensure that the correct process is followed. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now continue with interpellation. Oh, sorry. I skipped Honorable Syed. My apologies. You can continue, Member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I see I'm supposed to have spoken after the Minister, but it's fine. Honorable Chairperson, and I've heard both responses now from the Minister. I'm only supposed to hear one, but the documents related to the process to fill the vacancy 1094, because this is the vacancy, went missing during the handover process after a new circuit manager assumed office. As we've heard, the Minister spoke about the new circuit manager. So the SGB was made aware of these missing documents in March of this year. And after consultation with the new circuit manager, submitted all the documents, and it was confirmed by the WCED that this was in order. We have got this in writing. If the missing documents, Honorable Chair, were resubmitted to the WCED, why was it then necessary to restart the process? Honorable Bartman spoke about following a proper process. We want the MEC to investigate this as well, as to how these important documents also went missing. The delays, and I will repeat, in filling the position of principal at Hoër School Tulbagh have had several negative consequences. The vacant position has created a leadership vacuum, which has made it difficult for the school to function effectively. The delays have also caused uncertainty and anxiety among staff and students, as they do not know who their new principal will be. The students are worried about the future of their school. These delays have hampered the school's ability to improve, as it has been difficult to also implement new initiatives or to make necessary changes due to the absence of a full-time principal. It is clear that MEC Mania and his department have learned nothing from the Wesley Newman persecution, which hampered progress at Heathfield High School. The WCED's decision to restart this particular process at Hoër School Tulbagh will have similar effects if it's not stopped. This is highly unacceptable. It is in the best interest of the school for the department to allow the governing body to appoint a new principal without any further delays. Finally, another disadvantage is the closure of the school hostel, which provided accommodation for many students who would come from distant farming communities. We urge the MEC to reopen the school's hostel, to get the department to reopen the hostel. The MEC must intervene and ensure that the governing body is allowed to appoint the principal of its choice, so that we can have stability at the school.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you haven't used all your time. You still have 1.5 minutes. You can use that to respond.
Thank you, Chairperson. I note that the honourable member raises the whole question of the appointment process of Wesley Newman. Now, he said that he at one point had full confidence in the independence and fairness of the ELRC. Well, let me remind him that the very same ELRC, which he has full confidence in, found in respect of Wesley Newman the following. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm quoting from the document, as far as I'm concerned, there was not an iota of evidence presented by the applicant to support that he had been unfairly targeted. As I said previously, our responsibility is to act in the best interests of the learners at Tulbagh High School. And it's precisely for that reason that we will ensure that the appointment of the principal is free of irregularities. And that's why we are currently engaging with the school to assist them to ensure that the correct processes are followed and that we get a great school leader at Tulbagh High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the end of the first interpellation, and we are going to continue with the second interpellation. I now recognize Minister Ivan Meyer.
Dankie agbare huisvoorsitter en dankie aan agbare Kasim vir hierdie interpellasie. Die nasionale grondhervormingsraamwerk, ook bekend as the National Land Reform Framework van 2017 van die Nasionale Departement van Landbou, Grondhervorming en Landelike Ontwikkeling het bevind dat dit belangrik is dat ons moet kennis neem van wat daar gebeur in die grondhervormingsstrategie. En daarom is dit vir ons belangrik om te kyk na die regstaat, want volgens die grondwet is grondhervorming 'n nasionale mandaat en daarom word provinsiale departemente in Suid-Afrika nie toegelaat om grond vir landboudoeleindes te koop of te bekom nie. Hierdie standpunt is wetlik bevestig nadat ons 'n poging aangewend het om grondhervorming in die provinsie te versnel deur die aankoop van grond, maar dit is geweier weens die grondwetlike bepaling oor grondhervorming deur die nasionale regering. Agbare Kasim, dit is daarom om hierdie rede dat my departement grondhervormingsinisiatiewe soos die Witzenburg-Pels ondersteun deur die private sektor wat ook 'n bydrae kan lewer tot die breë grondhervormingsagenda. Ek dank u agbare.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I recognize Honorable Kasim.
Thank you very much. In terms of the Western Cape population demographics, it is estimated that 49% of people in the province are colored, followed by black people at 33%, by African people at 33%, and then white people at 16%, while Indians and Asians only account for close to 1% of the population. However, it is the ownership of agricultural land that boggles the mind. White people, who only form 16% of the population here in the province, own more than 70% of the agricultural land in the province, while colored people own only 15%, followed by Indians with 4%, and lastly, African people with a shocking 1% of ownership. The Premier of this province is always at pains to stress the issue of concurrent competency of powers between national and provincial government as outlined in the Constitution. But this dear-led Western Cape government even went at lengths to introduce a so-called powers bill, which is nothing but a desperate attempt to usurp powers assigned to the national government. However, the same DA government do not use the same energy and resources to make sure that African, coloured and Indian population in the province also receive a fair share when it comes to the ownership of agricultural land. And for this reason, this is why the Premier of the province had sleepless nights and even traveled to the USA for a holiday under the pretext that he was going to discuss the AGOA. It's because he knows that AGOA enriches only white people in the province immensely and does not do much to benefit the majority of African and coloured people in the province. Having said that, I would like the Minister to respond to the following. Is there any section or constitutional provision in South Africa which prohibits the province from using its own agricultural land suitable for farming for the benefit of African, Indian and coloured people so that they too can farm? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member van der Westhuizen.
Agbare voorsitter, soos wat die lid sopas gehoor het, is grondhervorming in terme van die grondwet die verantwoordelikheid van die nasionale regering. En die ANC het in hierdie opsig gefaal, soos wat die agbare Kasim se statistiek aandui. Wat wel vir my en vir ons uit ons oorsigrol as provinsiale parlement belangrik is die sukseskoers van grondhervormingsprojekte wat deur die Wes-Kaapse Departement van Landbou gesteun word. 'n Paar jaar gelede is die nasionale vergadering ingelig dat slegs 10% van grondhervormingsprojekte in Suid-Afrika slaag. Daarteenoor het die Wes-Kaap 'n 62% sukseskoers behaal in die 135 projekte wat op daardie stadium ondersteun is. Minister, my vraag is, hou die begroting wat die Wes-Kaap jaarliks onder die Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, oftewel CASP, en die Letsema programme ontvang, tred met die inflasiekoers, sodat u departement hierdie opkomende boere kan ondersteun. En indien nie, wat sê dit van die Nasionale Departement van Landbou, Grondhervorming en Landelike Ontwikkeling se erns met grondontwikkeling? Dankie.
Thank you very much, Member. I recognize Member Maran.
Thanks. Thanks, Chairperson. Schedule 4 of the Constitution also highlight the issue of rural development and land reform. But this particular government only chose to ask for the devolution of police powers. So it's their choice. Honorable Chairperson, in the post-apartheid era, South Africa confronts a range of challenges stemming from historical injustices endured by Black citizens during apartheid. One major issue is the unequal distribution of land, which the first democratically elected government sought to address through comprehensive land reform programs rooted in the Constitution. However, the Western Cape's compliance with and proper implementation of these programs have been lacking. The 2017 National Land Reform Framework Bill exposed a striking disparity in land ownership in the Western Cape, where 72% of land is owned by white individuals, whilst only 1% is owned by Black individuals. The discrepancy raises concerns about ongoing marginalization and exclusion of impoverished and Black communities from accessing and benefiting from land resources in the province. The constitutionality endorsed land reform initiatives aim to rectify past racially discriminatory laws that perpetuated segregation, leading to extreme inequalities in land ownership and usage. Agriculture remains pivotal to the Western Cape economy, contributing significantly to the national agricultural sector. But Black people do not benefit from this sector, even though they are the ones doing the labor work. It is crucial to recognize that the apartheid-associated political entity called the DA has adopted legislative measures akin to those used by the apartheid regime to enforce racial segregation. This context underscores the urgent need to address land reform challenges in order to rectify historical inequalities and promote a more inclusive and just society. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member Kasim.
Thank you. Section 25, subsection 5 of the South African Constitution requires the state to use reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to foster conditions which enable citizens to gain access to land on equitable basis. Since we all know that the provincial government also form part of the state and Schedule 4 of the South African Constitution, also given competency to the province where the gaps not covered by national government. With this in mind, and the constitutional requirement of cooperative governance amongst the three levels of government, what has the Minister's Department done to realize the requirement of Section 25, subsection 5 of the Constitution in making sure that people of this province gain access to agricultural land on an equitable basis?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Minister Meyer.
Dankie agbare huisvoorsitter. Ek is baie bly om te noem dat artikel 25 waarna agbare Kasim nou verwys het, my party die Demokratiese Alliansie het teen daardie klousule gestem. Ek weet ook dat die EFF in die nasionale parlement ook teen daardie artikel gestem het, duidelik vir verskillende doeleindes, maar dit is ook belangrik om te noem dat agbare van der Westhuizen is korrek. Daar was 2 studies gedoen om te bepaal oor die doeltreffendheid van grondhervorming in die Wes-Kaap en grondhervorming in die res van Suid-Afrika. Die navorsing het bewys dat die ANC se grondhervorming het misluk met 90% en dat die DA, daar is agbare van der Westhuizen korrek, die eerste keer 2 studies is gedoen. Die eerste studie het bevind dat dit 62% suksesvol was in die Wes-Kaap en die tweede een het bevestig dat 72% is suksesvol en dit is baie belangrik om te noem dat grondhervorming is die mandaat van die nasionale regering, maar as agbare lid Kasim wil hê dat die DA Wes-Kaap daardie funksie moet oorneem, moet sy asseblief hierdie Western Cape Powers Bill support, want dan kan ons meer magte van die nasionale regering afvat. And I really like her notion and the trend of a discussion, take the power from the national government. They are failing the people in land reform, and if she wants us to take it, I want her to support the Western Cape Powers Bill because the ANC is failing the people of the Western Cape.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the interpellations. Order, honorable members. We will now deal with the questions as printed on the question paper. I wish to advise honorable members that once the honorable premier or minister has started their reply to the oral question as printed on the question paper, honorable members must use the chat facility for this sitting of the House to indicate that they want to ask a follow-up question. There are 4 opportunities to follow up questions, but the honorable member who has posed the initial oral question as printed on the question paper will have the first opportunity for a follow-up question. Thereafter, other honorable member may use and the remaining opportunities to ask a follow-up question. I recognize the honorable premier.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the Honourable Class for the question. The Western Cape Government has primarily been engaging the Regional Land Claims Commissioner with regard to availing of provincial state land as identified by the Regional Land Claims Commissioner. For the settlement of land restitution claims, the Western Cape Government has also, where possible, attended to the availing of such identified land for the settlement of land restitution claims. The Western Cape Government also developed a process and policy consideration which serves as a guide to decision-making with regard to provincial state land and land restitution purposes. That's for the first part of the question. The second part of the question is the Western Cape Government does not have concurrent competency to deal with matters involving land redistribution.
Thank you very much. Honorable Class.
Thank you, House Speaker. I'm glad to see one leading this parliament today. I want to see in future we led by woman. Premier, there's not a big question, but honestly, you must be honest that you know that we want land, nothing else. What is his government doing to make sure that there is an equal distribution of land in the Western Cape to benefit of previous disadvantaged groups such as Blacks, Colours, and Indian population?
Thank you very much again for that follow-up, Honourable Class. And I think this fits very nicely into the discussion that we've just had with the previous interpellation, as well as the debate that we've had today. And I think a lot of those answers have been given by various speakers and specifically brought together by the Leader of Government Business and the Minister of Agriculture in his answer to that debate. But I again would maybe like to reiterate that You know, we are busy with a powers bill in the province. And the Land Reform Department, I think, is also a dismal failure in our country. I mean, we know that land reform, where it sits directly within the ANC control at that level, they first of all have one major problem, which I actually think the EFF have too, because you all talk about land and land ownership. And it would be very nice if you could, in this debate, actually tell the citizens, do you believe that people should be, especially dispossessed people or people who were disadvantaged because of the apartheid government and couldn't own land, do you think that people should own land? Because the Democratic Alliance believes absolutely that you should own land. And you believe, I believe in your policy, is that it should only be leased to people, as does the ANC. The ANC doesn't believe that people should have land ownership either. Although I do see that they keep on quoting percentages when they won't even give leases, let alone land ownership through the Land Reform Department. They only give leases sometimes when it suits them, or if the person that's getting the lease is an ANC-connected cadre. Because we've seen that in so many cases in this province where legitimate real farmers like Ivan Kluti, who are a farmer that can farm and gets chucked off land because of some ANC lackey who's never farmed in his life before and gets put on an operational farm. But even there, the leases never come through. So it would be interesting to see if the EFF are now changing their policy, saying that land ownership is the thing that we should all be striving for. I agree. And I think you should support the powers bill, because not only we talk about SAPs, because I think that's exactly what I'd like to see devolution. PRASA, and we've just had a discussion on trains. Energy, I mean, they're failing, energy is failing South Africans every single day, and the ANC have messed that up. So devolution of power there. But land reform, water affairs, we should devolve water affairs and decision around water allocation. That connects directly with land and empowering and enabling people to use land effectively and turn land into viable pieces of agricultural profit-making spaces. What about fishing? That also should be devolved. You know, and I mean, we're talking about
You want to
SASA.
create a Burestad here. You want to create a Burestad. We've passed that stage.
Member Nkondo, you know better than doing what you just did. Continue, Premier.
Chair, the problem is the member in the ANC does know that the ANC have messed up, totally failed the citizens of our country and this province. And we've got to make sure, and I think this question is pertinent. And so that's why I think the honourable member should definitely support the devolution and this bill that's in Parliament at the moment. Number one, we need more powers at provincial level. The second thing is the honourable member should speak to his caucus at a national level and get them to actually put in a bill nationally to say, why don't we devolve the devolution? Let's devolve land reform powers to provinces and enable provinces to actually get involved with directly giving land to people. And then perhaps my last point is, you know, the ANC and the EFF only believe in leasing people land. They don't believe that people should own land, which is absolutely wrong. They also keep on quoting the wrong number as 1%. It'd be very nice if they went to look for this 1% number and where the research comes in to give them the 1%. And I would challenge the Honourable Pat Moran to come forward at the next sitting and give us chapter and verse of how he found the 1%, because I guarantee you it is incorrect. Thank you, Chair.
I now recognize Member Moran.
Thanks, Chair. The Western Cape government got 2 farms, only 2 farms that belongs to them. Vaikral and Amalienstein. They have messed it up. The communities of Zoa and Duiselsdorp for the last 10 years is waiting for this government to hand over the land that belongs to them. You have messed it up. 2 farms and you speak about land reform. You can't even manage 2 farms. In 2014, at the Land Reform Summit in Stellenbosch, when this premier was still the MEC of Agriculture, gave the agricultural sector 3 months to establish district land reform committees. There's the chairperson. There's the chairperson. Did they do it? Have they established this district land reform committees? And if, how has it helped land reform in the Western Cape? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Chair. No, because of ANC, the way the ANC go about doing this work, and quite frankly, all we've done is hit our heads against a brick wall when it's come to the Land Reform Department. And specifically, one would have thought it would have been better because there was a deputy minister who at least came from this legislature before. He knows this parliament, he knows this province, Deputy Minister Squatcher, but he's absolutely missing in action. We have hardly ever seen him in the years that he's been the deputy minister. And one would have thought that he would have actually made a difference in land reform, but zero, nothing, nada. Yeah, so quite frankly, and maybe I should put the challenge back again to the Honourable Maran, is to say, please tell us where you get the 1% and perhaps add to that to tell us about the committees that you've established in the other provinces and the massive, massive successes that you've attained in the ANC-run provinces. I've yet to see one. We know that the measurements in this province, where we've measured twice land reform, and we're actually measuring it where our government is helping those that are on that land, that is finally, if we're lucky enough to get a lease. And that's where we help people. And that's where you can see that it moved from 60% to 70% success rate. The ANC are too scared to measure land reform in any other province because they are such a dismal failure. And quite frankly, if I think about this question and about the previous debates, while the debates were on and we were talking about commercial farmers and Women's Day specifically, I started noting down farmers that are helped, and specifically winemakers that are helped to build their brands. And now you see them growing out their agricultural platforms, owning land and growing their farms. I think of Carmen Stevens, I think of Tanya Kleinhaus, I think of Kleinhans, I think of Nsiki Biela, I think of Jessica Suravain, I think of Natasha Williams, the Seven Sisters, and look at how successful they are becoming. I think of Denise Stubbs and Tokozani. I think of the Bosman Adama and all the ladies involved at Bosman Adama in their wine brands. I think of Sisfikile wines. I think of Mhudi wines. I think of Rosemary Mosia and the Bridge of Hope wines. I think about J9 wines and Janine Peterson and yeah, amazing women who are being supported by programs in government and are doing amazing things and taking their brands, as the Minister of Agriculture was saying earlier, into international markets. And they are getting into these markets on the back of AGOA and on the back of arrangements through trade agreements into the EU. And they are doing unbelievably well. And it is this agricultural department and this government that is supporting them and enabling them. If we got a devolution of land reform powers and enabling us to put land in the place of ownership of citizens of the province, we get things done. Just imagine how different it would be. Imagine not only in agricultural land, but also in cities or in the city of Cape Town, where that military land could be made available. Big tracts of land owned by public works that just get held fuss. There's no ways they want to devolve it because they know we get things done. And then, of course, I think national government's most dismal failure is District 6. And quite frankly, I cannot believe that they cannot get that going. Just imagine if there were 6 or 7 Conradi sites on District 6 right now, how much of a difference it would make in the middle of the city of Cape Town. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Premier. I now recognize Member Fry.
Thank you, House Chairperson. My question is to the Premier. Has his government made any call for the release of land owned by the national government for the purposes of housing, and has there been any resistance to these calls?
Premier.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the Honourable Fryer for that question. We have got letter amongst letter, document amongst document of specifically, as I said earlier, military land held by National Public Works being transferred. And then, of course, in the agricultural space, when I was in that position that Minister May is in right now, and we were speaking earlier about leases versus ownership of land, time and time again saying, please release this land, because there's farmers that want to own this land. And of course, that goes back to the ANC's failure and the ANC's policy position, which ultimately is a failure because they don't want ownership of land. And the second thing is they do not know how to release land to farmers and to landowners. They really do not know how to do it. They haven't shown us anywhere where they're fully in government, and they definitely have not managed to devolve any of those pieces of land here in the province or in any of our municipalities.
Thank you very much. Premier, I now recognize Member Dagmar, which is the last question for the follow-up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, House Chair. What I would like to ask is that in Honourable Member Klaas's question, he had specifically asked why the provincial government had not asked the national government to devolve land reform powers. So what I would like to ask the Premier to confirm is that in terms of Section 99 of the National Constitution, it says that a cabinet member may assign any power or function to be exercised or performed in terms of an act of parliament to a member of a provincial executive council or to a municipal council. An assignment must be in terms of an agreement between the relevant cabinet member, the executive council, must be consistent with the act of parliament and takes effect upon proclamation by the president. Now, the specific question which follows up from Member Klaas's question, has the Honourable Premier in his former role as an MEC and his current role as a Premier ever approached the President specifically in terms of an assignment of function in terms of Section 99 of the National Constitution? Thank you.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I think that's the whole purpose of our piece of legislation, is to actually enable the devolution of power and use that exact section in the Constitution. But what I would like to say, and directly to answer the Honourable Dugmore, I do not think so on giving land reform power to us, but I think it is an excellent idea, and I'm going to ask that this gets put to the President in the National Assembly, and I expect the EFF and the ANC to both support that section in the Constitution immediately, that gets devolved to the province, because I think it's an outstanding idea, and it seems to be
Honourable members, order members.
In this House, and we will do that immediately. Thank you very much, Honourable Doug.
Thank you very much. That was conclusion of the first question. We are going to continue with the second question. I recognize Minister Seamus.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Through you to Member Maran, the A part of your question. My department became aware of the illegal water connections when it conducted assessments of soil erosion along the informal structures of the SST informal settlement on the 8th of July 2023. The B part of your question, the City of Cape Town has identified a decanting site for the relocation of all the affected families. My department will monitor the progress of the relocation of all the affected families and also assist to accommodate the elderly and most vulnerable qualifying beneficiaries in the Silvertown project to enable implementation of super blocking to de-densify the SST informal settlement. The relocation of the elderly is dependent on the completion of units, which is estimated to commence on the third quarter of 2024-2025 financial year.
Thank you very much. Member Maran.
Thanks, Chairperson. The Chair, it must firstly be noted that these same questions were asked in a written request and the department could not answer. So in terms of the rules, I had to submit the question for oral reply, and that's why the question is here today. Chair, the reality is that the MEC's department was not on top of the task in respect of soil erosion at the site. Can the MEC assure the residents of the Western Cape that he will actually take his job serious and ensure that houses are built in the province so that this kind of occupation of land with devastating consequences does not reoccur? Thanks.
Minister.
Honourable House Chair, first and foremost, and I'm happy that this has now gone on record because the Honourable Maran has just lied. My department did indeed respond to the honourable member. So it's on record that he has just lied. Thank you.
Chair, the Honourable MEC or leader of the DA in the province has just quite clearly stated that the Honourable Maran has lied. He's casting aspersions on the member. He needs to bring a substantive motion in that regard. Can he please be cautioned and requested to bring a substantive motion?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Said. Honorable Minister, we know the rules. Let's use the weights that are acceptable within the House and continue with the question. Can you continue, Honorable Minister? You may continue.
Honourable House Chair, indeed, we did respond to the written question from the member, and indeed, I will bring a substantive motion because viewers of the Western Cape are actually observing the sitting, and I'm tired of this House being used to mislead our people out there. And indeed, within our limited resources, we do provide housing opportunities to qualifying beneficiaries across our province, once again, with limited resources. Thank you, Madam House Chair, which is to respond to the member's question, the secondary part.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I don't see any hand. We are going to continue with the third question. I recognize Honorable Minister Shana Fernandez.
Honourable House Chair, I think whilst the members are sorting out their dialogue and in the spirit of the debate and the interpellation, Honourable Baku Vos, if you would allow me to respectfully acknowledge all women in this House, on the virtual platform, in the gallery and in the province for advancing the cause of women by empowering and uplifting each other and their communities, not only on Women's Day, Women's Month, but 365 days a year. Women of strength, I salute you. Now to the Honourable Baku Vos's question. Thank you, Honourable Baku Vos. There have been numerous complaints regarding Hayes Spitskop. The first, as far as I have tracked, goes to 17th of July 2019, where Pawusa complained about the board and refused to sign an agreement with him. The union also indicated it wants to discuss internal issues pertaining to staff members. The department informed the union that it cannot be involved with the matter since the department is not the employer. It was also advised that negotiations should take place between the union and the employer. The composition of staff is prescribed by the regulations of the Older Persons Act, and the department brought it to the attention that the staff composition must be implemented according to the minimum norms and standards in terms of the Older Persons Act number 13 of 2006. In September 2021, a complaint by a member of parliament was responded to and matters included in the service delivery development plan to be addressed by the board. On the 2nd of September 2021, another complaint by a member of the Standing Committee regarding the following matters: the board composition and management, the unpleasant environment and working conditions of staff members, care and services of residents, no blankets, clothes and meals. The department responded by submitting a written report dated the 15th of September 2021 to the member of the Standing Committee after an investigation was concluded. A monitoring visit was conducted again during 2022 with various follow-ups by the region. The board and management was engaged in person and the monitoring report was also submitted to them. A service delivery improvement plan was concluded and signed by the board on the 30th of June 2022 for implementation. The service delivery improvement plan is currently being monitored. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I now recognize Member Baku Force.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I welcome your response, Honorable MEC of Social Development in Bogoto. As you already said, we should respect each other and we must always work together. We must unite against the poor people and the poverty in this country or this province. My follow-up question is, in a written reply from you, Minister, on this matter, you indicated that the last AGM for the organization was held in 2019. And I want to understand from the MEC, why has there not been an AGM since then? And what steps is the department taking ensure that an AGM is held as soon as possible? As we visited that old age home, the board members are still the same. Nothing has changed. Can I get clarity on that matter? Thank you very much, Minister.
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member Baku Force. I think it's very important to highlight that the department is responsible for monitoring norms and standards. The management of the boards of facilities, we have no control over. So I think to give context to that, we currently fund 114 old age homes, 27 assisted and independent living residential facilities. So we have 143 facilities. And then we have 180 private homes that we do not fund, but we need to check on all of them for the norms and standards. And we also have older persons' private lodges that needs to be monitored. So our capacity or mandate when it comes to the running of any older care facility is to ensure that norms and standards are in place. I have received probably 4 or 5 complaints where there is infighting in the board, there's political contestation, and there are allegations going to and fro. And unfortunately, the department does not have the mandate to prescribe to the board how they constitute themselves. But if they are found wanting in terms of the transfer payment agreement, that is when the department will act and send in a team to do a rapid assessment. Thank you, Honourable Baku.
Thank you. I recognize Member Plato.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. To the Honourable Minister, just one or two quick questions. Is Huisspitskop a DSD-funded facility? And then secondly, link up with the Minister's answer right now. How many homes do DSD monitor and how many does the department assist with funding? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Plato. As I indicated, we have 143 facilities and Huisspitskop is one of the funded homes. We also have, in total, we have over 400 NGOs in the older person sector. So the question regarding monitoring and evaluation, we have a team of 6 monitoring officials and we have 365 days in a year, less the working days. We cannot get to every one of the 400 facilities in any one cycle, but there is a 3-year cycle. However, where there are problematic facilities, and there are a few, I am aware of one in Toes River that is experiencing difficulty, and Badisa has also informed the department that they are looking at 4 homes that are likely to be closed. So the sector is under immense pressure, and our mandate is to support them as best we can in terms of equipping them with the necessary skills and the performance management assessments to help them stay abreast of, I think, what is a huge societal challenge where all our NGOs and NPOs have been affected negatively post-COVID. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hand raised online and also in Member Baku first. Before you stand up, Minister, Member Dagmar, surely you can hear that noise and it's going to be disturb every member in the house. Deal with it. Minister? Honorable Baku first, you can continue.
And address the allegations of ill treatment and racism. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much. I recognize Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Again, as I said, Honorable Baku Force, there is a plan in place, a development plan. It was signed off and agreed to on the 30th of June. It is currently being monitored, and I will request the department to provide me with an update so that we can check and assess what is happening. However, there could be, I have heard rumblings that the home is quite likely to consider closure due to all the challenges that they are facing. So that has yet to be confirmed, but as I said to you, it is something that is being talked about, and once we get clarity, I can provide the committee with feedback on that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Member Baku first, I recognize you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't. Let me say, Minister, I don't want to leave this. This is the month of women, and I am noticing the women of strength. I know you are working very hard to make sure that this department is providing for our poor people. But really, the house seems that that old age home seems that they don't follow the rules of the social development. As the NPO board members and the NPCs are family members, I think there is something that needs to be done because constitutionally that is not accepted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member. Minister?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Before I respond to the Honourable Baku Force, there seems to be some contention by your colleague regarding our engagement, and I think it is important for the House to note that social development cannot and should not be politicized because poverty, unemployment, it affects everybody irrespective of the color of the T-shirt that you wear. And as is with Huis Spitskop in Maritzburg, it is a diverse community that lives there, but they all suffer due to mismanagement, maladministration, or a lack of leadership, whatever it might be. So I remain committed, Honourable Baku Force, to have the older persons program follow up as a matter of urgency regarding the status of the improvement plan and also whether the facility is still a going concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. That was the last follow-up from question number 4 on the order paper. We are going to continue with the question number 5. I recognize you, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Honourable members, it is reported that the Western Cape is experiencing a large volume of emigration of citizens from other provinces. This is adding to the additional pressure and movement on our road network. In addition to our current registered vehicle population of 2,123,000, this vehicle population does obviously not include unregistered motor vehicles, nor the daily additional fleet of heavy motor vehicles that transport our essential goods due to the inadequate rail service. Socioeconomic conditions lead to many pedestrians that must walk to various destinations, seeking or going to places of work, school, or health facility. In the city of Cape Town alone, 387,000 trips are by bicycle or foot in many across the province. Provincial Traffic Services is responsible for 29,000 kilometers of our major and secondary routes. The highest recorded number of crashes and fatalities, especially that of pedestrians, is recorded within the metro. Driver negligence, which include but limited to distracted driving, speeding, reckless and negligent driving, drivers and passengers not wearing safety belts, driver fatigue, is still the highest contributing factor to our road crash fatalities. This number one cause is followed by motor vehicle fitness. 2. One of the department's goals is the reduction of road fatalities by 50% by 2030. Pedestrian fatalities are the largest contributor to road fatalities in the Western Cape. The department is in the process of implementing the non-motorized intervention strategy framework, with all key stakeholders and role players will be focusing on identified hotspots within the metro. We are in the process of increasing our road safety management office by an additional 33 officials. Our daily law enforcement program will continue to deploy our resources to predetermined locations on our major routes as identified via our advanced data analytics application to address driver behavior, vehicle fitness, speed, driving under the influence of alcohol. In conjunction with our Safely Home communication program, we will ensure that we can reach our target audience to address the current situation with our vulnerable pedestrians. B. The vacancy rate in the traffic management branch is 20%. The majority of the vacancies are for provincial inspectors and senior provincial inspectors. Plans are currently underway to have another student traffic officer intake, which will commence from the 8th of January 2024 to fill vacant provincial inspector posts on the establishment. The post has been advertised on the 4th of August and will close on the 20th of August 2023. Thereafter, recruitment and selection process will proceed across the province to recruit the suitable candidates. The recruitment process for the Chief Director Traffic Management has been initiated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. I now recognize Honorable Mvimbi.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, and thank you very much to the Honorable Minister for their response. However, Chairperson, it is a known fact that part of the root cause of the deadly road crashes are human factors such as reckless driving, speeding, and driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And to effectively address these, we need additional traffic officers on our roads. We know that over 100 BMWs for traffic officers are gathering dust in the government garages while our people perish on the roads. And lately, the Minister divulged the traffic law enforcement is experiencing an annual exodus of skilled and experienced provincial inspectors. I therefore seek an understanding from the Minister, how is his department dealing with the high number of road carnages under these circumstances? And asked differently, what is the department doing to retain experienced personnel and to ensure that the BMWs are on the road so that our traffic law enforcement officer is adequately resourced? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
House Chairperson. I think there were 3 questions, but I'll respond to the first questions. One is indeed, the honourable member is absolutely right. I mean, negligence, drunken driving, speeding, reckless and negligent driving. I mean, these are severe causes of accidents. And one of the things that we, for example, over the last week, we had 254 integrated roadblocks where we searched nearly 41,000 vehicles that were checked. But it comes down to human behavior. I mean, I can just give you some of the examples, some of the stats that I saw over the weekend. A driver was caught 171 kilometers in 120 zone. Someone was caught 140 kilometers in 100 zone. Another person, I think 125 kilometers in the 80 kilometer zone. That comes down to individual responsibility and driver behavior. So obviously our continued enforcement, and as the honourable member will know, we have seen a decrease in the last year in road fatalities in the Western Cape and road death across the Easter period, including in the December period. So our enforcement, our education programs is working, but more needs to be done. One road death on our roads is one too many. So I agree with him, more needs to be done, and our traffic officers are working to get this done. I'll answer his second question as well, despite the fact that it was a secondary question. We are working as urgently to get those BMWs out on the road, as the previous written reply, which was given to the honourable member as well, clearly indicated why the BMWs was not on the road, but our guys are working speedily to get that on the road quite urgently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me recognize Honorable America, and sorry for skipping you.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, I'd like to ask, with regard to the latest taxi strike action, whether you are aware of any accusations that the ANC and EFF members were A, involved in, or B, instigated violence that we saw unfold during the strike action? If so, do you have any details about it? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable America. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Order, members. Order.
Okay.
Honorable Class, is that a point of order?
Yes, the strike,
May proceed.
point of order is that the strike was not implemented by EFF. EFF is always supporting the ground. Yes, when there is a program, the EFF supports that program. That's what I'm trying to say. So we will never be against
Honorable
the
Class,
power
can you
and the
speak?
struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, but that was not a point of order. Would you like to speak, Honorable Deputy?
No, Chair, you've covered me in terms of Rule 66, subsection 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you may rise.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. By the admission of the Honorable Class himself, they always support the ground, and they were present on that day as widely reported. So the Honorable EFF members, ANC members, on the day the strike was announced, they were present at that venue, and some of them even spoke loudly on TV about this matter. So they need to account for their behavior, Honorable America.
Order, Honorable Class. Order, please. Honorable Mvimbi, please. Thank you very much. I like you. We may go, and do we have any, you may rise, Honorable Mvimbi.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. I'm intending to exhaust all the available opportunities of follow-up questions. In his written reply to a question on road crashes and carnages in the province, the minister pointed out that there were 342 pedestrian deaths on our roads and 80 children, but in the same reply did not mention any specific action that the department is taking to address this high number of deaths in our road. I would therefore like to get an understanding from the minister, what are the specific interventions that the department is taking to make our roads safer for pedestrians and children? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mvimbi. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. On that reply, perhaps I can just inform the Minister what we've done in the weekend, but I'll start again. What we are doing, we're implementing the non-motorized intervention strategy framework that is in the metro and also outside of the metro. We have continued with our law enforcement program, where we deploy our resources to predetermine location on our major routes. which we're also looking at, obviously addressing driver behavior, vehicle fitness, speed driving. And that, Honorable Mvimbi, has led to the arrest over the last weekend. We had, I think I said 250 integrated roadblocks over the last weekend, the last week, sorry, 41,000 vehicles were checked. And in that, we had, I think, 300 or nearly almost close to 400 speeding offenses. And that is what we're doing, trying to get these drivers that are reckless, irresponsible, drinking and driving, using fraudulent documentation to remove them from our roads, which coincidentally is also what part of the safety programs that we're doing for our commuters and passengers in the minibus taxi industry. So that is exactly what we're doing. We need to remove individuals off the road who are drinking and driving, irresponsible behavior. The vehicles are not fit. These are the individuals that we are removing off the road. And that in conjunction with our Safely Home program and our communication program, which enforcement, education, that has led to a reduction in vehicle in fatalities over the Easter weekend period and including over the December period.
Thank you very much, Minister. You can proceed, Honorable America.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, can you elaborate on the role that the road users, that is drivers and pedestrians, could play in contributing towards reducing road fatalities on our roads? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable America. And I think that is probably the crux of the forward long-term solution in this matter, because we can have another 50,000 roadblocks. We can have another 10,000 traffic officers of the road, but we can't have a traffic officer for every car. We can't have a police officer in everyone's house. We can't have a social worker in everyone's house, and we can't have a teacher in everyone's house. That is not the long-term solution. It comes down to driver behavior, personal responsibility in these matters, that we need to encourage our constituents not to be reckless and negligent and to be responsible. So, Honorable America, so if your friend comes to your house and he comes in for a bribe, for example, you must tell him, order an Uber. Don't drink and drive. Those are the basic things that we all have to do as a society to our families and friends, because these are the situations that cause accidents, that cause crashes, that leads to the numbers Honorable Mvimbi was talking about, children dying on our road. So if we, all of us as members of parliament, with our family members, with our relatives, can speak to them and talk about our changed behavior, because that's what ultimately will reduce all these crashes and accidents on our roads, so that our hospitals are not full. Because we can't have a police officer, a traffic officer, a nurse in everyone's house. There's not a government in this world that has a police officer for everyone, a traffic officer for every person. All comes down to personal responsibility and change behavior. And we as members of this parliament, and any parliament, must encourage our friends, our families to change behavior. And that is how we're going to ultimately reduce these numbers. Obviously, as government, we also have a responsibility to enforce the law, to educate people, like our Safely Homes programs, advertising, communication, roadblocks, etc., etc. But it has to be in partnership with what we are telling our families and friends and communities and constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. Now I recognize Honorable Class.
Thank you, House Speaker. My question
You may sit, Honorable Class.
Chair, to my knowledge, the 4 questions on this particular question to the Minister of Mobility has been exhausted in terms of admissibility of follow-up questions.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip. Let's move to the 6th question. Sorry, Honorable Class, for that. Now I would like to recognize Banong Molai. Honorable Class, no Minister, sanikupela ngaphandle. Now I recognize Honorable Minister Simas. You may rise.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Thank you to Honorable Maseko for the question. The first part of your question is that the Department of Infrastructure is aware of 8 investigations into the allegations of extortion at construction projects. These investigations involve SAP stations in Manenberg. There's 4 cases there. Delft, 1 case, Middleton, 1 case, and Guguletu, 2 cases. The cases in question relate to the unlawful supply of material, demolitions, site security, and intimidation. The second part of your question, the department works closely with all relevant stakeholders to enable law enforcement agencies to pursue these investigations.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, I just want to find out, looking at the delays that are happening within the construction because of this, is there any strategic plan that maybe the department do have working together with the municipalities, as it's a problem that is within the whole province?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Through you to the Honorable Member. No, indeed, Honorable Member Maseko, we do have a plan in place. We do work closely with all stakeholders, given the impact and the far-reaching implication of extortion across the province. So we do have a preventative plan in motion, which does include not only the stakeholders outside of our control, but inside of our control, which is the project steering committees, but also the local ward council and council plays a very pertinent role in that plan. We have seen outside of the city of Cape Town this being very successful in some of our key projects. Obviously, the lessons we've learned will now come to the city of Cape Town itself, where this is a massive problem. Like I've mentioned, all the 8 cases are in one specific part of our province, which is the city of Cape Town jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Nkondlo for the follow-up question. Thank you. Before you, Honorable Nkondlo, I see a hand. Is that a point of order? Okay, you may remain sitting for now. Honorable Nkondlo, you may proceed.
Thank you, House Chair. Can I ask the MEC whether he has asked the assistance of the JP Smith in the city, who seems to have all the solutions for lawlessness, to help him with the crisis or the challenge of construction mafia, and what has been the improvement or a response in that regard? Thanks.
Honorable Minister, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I do take note of the Honorable Member Nkondlo's question. Like I said, we do involve all key role players. We've learned lessons outside of the city jurisdiction, and as such, those lessons we have learned, we will be utilizing in the city as well. But I do emphasize all role players, which means key stakeholders, even key portfolios within the local sphere of government where we are focusing on. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I now recognize Honorable Meren.
Thanks, Chairperson. Yeah, in a previous sitting, the Honorable Christians said that we know who these people are. MEC, can you tell us whether it's true that those who participating, companies, in a bidding process and who are losing out on that particular process, not getting a contract, responsible for some of these extortions? And if are they still bidding, participating in bidding processes, in contracts to build houses in this province? Thanks.
Honorable Minister Simas, you may respond.
Honorable House Chair, once again, the original question posed to me was relating to criminal investigations. And I have confirmed there are 8 criminal investigations. All 8 are in various police precincts within the city of Cape Town. As such, one will now need to allow those 8 investigations to go their course. One can't speculate, but obviously there are certain drivers for specific things happening in specific communities, and I hope that these investigations actually do show that as a fact as well. So I can't comment on the rest until such investigations are concluded, and hopefully the rest of the law process goes its course and we actually see persecution in a court of law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Class.
Ndayifumana chance. MEC, PRASA, to one of the most community transport, and is the one of the cheapest for the poor. But the problem is the cable theft. Cable theft. Now, my question on the issue of cable theft, did you recognize that failure? How will you recover on that? Because most of the train are not taking people earlier at work because of cable theft. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a hand, Honorable Masodi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I think Honorable Member just twisted and turned the question. We are not there yet, Honorable Member. We're still on extortion.
Yeah, I'll keep it.
Can the House be quiet? Honorable members, I think now we are. Before we go to question 7, I would allow Honorable Masodi Maseko to rise and ask a question.
Thank you. For the follow-up, Minister, I just want to find out the issue of extortion is just not in Western Cape only, it's within the whole country. That is a challenge to other provinces. Just want to find out, looking at the commitment from the stakeholders or subs, to what an extent is there a success in other provinces with their intelligence? And if that's the case, which provinces that they are successful in dealing with the extortion within the construction industry?
Minister Simas, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Through you to Honourable Maseko. Member Maseko, indeed, this is a phenomenon across all 9 provinces. Various cases has been lodged and they are under investigation. So at the moment, there is no success story to tell. Although as a provincial government in the Western Cape, we are quite proactive in following up these investigations to ensure that at least some of these cases can go the full course of the law and that we can see prosecution, which is our ultimate objective and will be the ultimate success. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can give you that's positive in that regard at this moment.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let us move to question 7. I now recognize Honorable Masodi Maseko.
Not going to respond to my
Before
question,
you,
Minister.
I would like the Minister to rise. Sorry.
I think Honourable House Chair, I know it's a long day, we can get tired at times. Honourable House Chair, through you to Member Maseko. Member Maseko, the simple answer is no. There is no collaboration between PRASA and my department due to the fact that the management and the maintenance of the rail infrastructure in the province is still vested with PRASA and the National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. We have no mandate in terms of the rail infrastructure, and that is why we established the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure to play an active role in enhancing the rail network infrastructure in the province. We have been advocating for the devolution to take over the management of the rail network, to take charge within our province of maintenance, the operation, and the enhancement of all rail infrastructure in our province. As the province will do, I think we all can agree, a much better job than the ANC government is doing nationally at the moment. The second part of your question,
You may sit, Minister.
at the moment, there is no movement with projects due to the...
Honorable Maran. Okay, you may rise.
Oh, Marianne, opposite right.
Noted.
Honourable House Chair. Second part, Honourable Member Maseko. At the moment, there is no movement with projects due to the unlawful occupation of the rail network. The third part of your question, once again, projects aren't progressing according to the planned schedule due to the approximate 30,000 unlawful occupiers on the rail network.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. I would like Honorable Maseko, followed by Honorable Maren. Thank you. In that order.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Minister, looking at Western Cape with the Department of Infrastructure, I just want to find out if you have ever tried to communicate with the PRASA in trying to assist them as a province, that what are what is the word? It's a long day. How can you go about in helping them, or maybe the plan that you have in infrastructure, looking at the needs that are within our communities, more especially in transport within the Western Cape government? What role the department can play in adding value to our communities?
Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you, Asha. Indeed, Honorable Maseko, the full go of the Department of Infrastructure, Transport and Public Works, we did actually write numerous letters to the board chairperson of PRASA, but needless to say, we're still waiting for a response 18 months later. So it's not that we have not attempted to form or build a working relationship with PRASA, because we do have the expertise to assist them. We do know that they have a lack of technical skills at certain levels, but above all, we have an approach of seeking to work together, noting the importance of our rail infrastructure and our rail network, more so for those community members who we do realize utilize the trains on a daily basis, which shared at the moment cannot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pat Maren.
Thanks, Chairperson. MEC, you know that the HDA have made land available for those families to relocate. And we also know that the city of Cape Town have blocked those relocation of those families to the land that the HDA have made available. What is your department doing, MEC, to expedite, to assist the relocation of those families to the land that has been made available by the HDA? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you may proceed, and you have limited time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. First and foremost, let's get the facts to the floor on this House. Much has been said about this land. The land has not been purchased. So you can't move people to land that has not been purchased. Number one. Number two, there was a due process. Once the land will finally be purchased, to actually rezone the identified parcels of land for human settlements development. That is a fact. That is what we've said as well. So in terms of that, Honorable Maren, until such time that HDA actually acquires the land and follows due process in terms of the City of Cape Town's planning processes, we have a specific role to play through our branch human settlements. That will only activate once the transfer and sale of the land has been completed. In terms of the MOA, Honorable House Chair, we have a specific role to play, and that role will come to fruition once HDA actually purchased the land, which they have not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we came in the end of our oral questions. Thank you very much. Let's move to our statements. I now recognize the ANC.
Thank you, House Chair.
Sorry about that. I think I love this ANC so much, I forgot. I now recognize the DA. Sorry.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. We note your love for the ANC, but we will always come first. Honourable House Chairperson, on Sunday, the Department of Community Safety and Police Oversight revealed that 1,098 individuals were arrested by our successful LEAP officers in the 28-day period between the 3rd and the 30th of July. LEAP officers also participated in the confiscation of 30 illegal firearms, meaning that an average of more than one illegal firearm was taken off the street every day. In addition to this, more than half of these arrests were drug-related, with 699 individuals arrested by LEAP officers for dealing in or possessing illegal narcotics. For a moment, let us consider what this means. The government's crime-fighting units have taken an average of 1 gun off the street every single day. They have confiscated illegal firearms from almost every precinct to which they are deployed, and each one of the nearly 700 arrests for drugs represents a reduction in revenue for the gangs that profit from tearing our communities apart. Honourable House Chairperson, these results are what happens when a capable government is allowed to shine. When we in the DA discuss devolution in this House, results like these are what we mean. We have shown that a data-led, decentralized model of policing works, and it saves lives. To dispute this is to ignore the facts, and to refuse the devolution of policing to this government is to allow political pride and blind ideology to get in the way of crime fighting and doing what is right for our people. I hope that our LEAP officers will continue to bring safety and hope back to our communities, and in so doing, play the most meaningful role in the memory of their fallen comrades, Taufik Williams and Zikanya Kwenana. May these two heroes rest in peace, and may those responsible for their deaths be swiftly brought to justice. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Osman. I now recognize it. Before can entertain
Honourable Chair, just on a point of order, the honourable member is misleading this House by saying that the LEAP officers belong to the Western Cape Provincial Government. I will bring a substantive motion to prove that the LEAP officers belong to the city of Cape Town. JP's LEAP officers. Thanks.
Thank you very much. But I know we have only one chair. Ne? I know everyone has an interest in this question, but on this point of order, that is not a point of order. Thank you very much. I now recognize the ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the ANC government has made significant strides in women empowerment. These include increasing women representation in leadership positions, promoting economic participation, and addressing GBV. The ANC has introduced a number of progressive policies, such as BBEE, to break down gender-based barriers. It has also set aside 40% of public procurement for women-owned businesses. The ANC has acknowledged the pivotal role that women play in agriculture and implemented policies such as National Policy Framework for Women Empowerment and Gender Equality in Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery to support them. It has also launched the National Strategy Plan on GBV and Femicide. Contrasting this with the Democratic Alliance approach in the Western Cape, it is evident that the DA has not matched the ANC strides in women's empowerment. The DA's record on women empowerment in the Western Cape has been less impressive. Despite being in a position to influence provincial policy, the DA has fallen short in creating an enabling environment for women economic advancement. So House Chair, there are disparities in income and representation within the province workforce, and there is no uniform GBV policy or updated sexual harassment policy. As a result of this, female government employees have fallen victim of sexual harassment and other violations by senior male counterpart who enjoy protection of members of the provincial executive. The ANC acknowledges that more work still needs to be done. It is concerned by the Commission of Gender Equality finding that there has been no significant improvement in spending on women-owned businesses since the president pronounced in 2020. Pronouncement in 2020. The ANC calls on the ANC calls on government, including Premier Windy's government, to improve this. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize EFF.
Student protest to National Parliament against arbitrary rule by NFPAS. On Wednesday, 16 August 2023, students from University and TVET colleges took to the street to march against a new rule introduced by the National Financial Aid Scheme. The student complained that the new introduced NFS bank cards are problematic as they often experience glitches resulting in allowance not being received. They further called for the increase of accommodation allowances. 45,000 per annum amount is very limited. Consider that accommodation closer to situation of higher learning is mostly expensive, more especially in the Western Cape. The other limit is that NEFSAS does not grant accommodation allowance to student completely modules, which account for less than 60 credits. As the EFF, we call upon NEFSAS to come into census and review its recent policy changes as that advantage students. The majority of students who rely on NEFSAS for funding mostly come from indigenous families. Policy changes such as this once enrolled of dignity of the student and subject them to unwarranted hardship. It is a no-brainer to expect a student to study and pass while it's an empty stomach as a result of some backwards payment system intended for their food allowance. Similarly, limited amount of accommodation and not providing accommodation allowance to the learners. We once more call upon NFSAS to review and revise its rule whilst taking the concerns of learners into account. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Class. I now recognize the DA.
Agbare voorsitter, ek dink in hierdie huis is almal baie goed bewus van die uitstaande reputasie van die Wes-Kaapse wynbedryf. Ons het 'n tradisie van wynmaak wat teruggaan na eeue gelede en produseer sommige van die beste wyne ter wêreld teen kommersieel lewensvatbare volumes. Hierdie bedryf lewer 'n groot bydrae tot ons ekonomie. Dit het 55 miljard rand tot Suid-Afrika se bruto binnelandse produk bygedra verlede jaar. En net die uitvoere alleen het 'n waarde van 10 miljard rand. Nogtans, soos met alles in die land, sukkel die bedryf onder die druk van beurtkrag. Pompe benodig elektrisiteit. Wingerde wat nie op die regte tye besproei kan word nie, lewer kleiner oeste. Aan die produksiekant is wynmaak 'n baie gespesialiseerde wetenskap en kunsvorm met kelders wat miljoene belê in hoë kwaliteit toerusting. Temperatuurbeheer is uiters belangrik om kwaliteit wyn te kan maak. En hierdie toerusting, soos in bottelleringsaanlegte en koelkamers, het elektrisiteit nodig om te werk. Selfs waar plase alternatiewe energie kan bekom en in werking stel, is dit 'n baie duur kapitale belegging wat baie van ons kleiner plase eenvoudig nie kan bekostig nie. Wanneer jy dit saamvoeg met die vinnig stygende prys van Eskom se elektrisiteit, word dit uiters moeilik vir die bedryf om sy produksie te handhaaf, laat staan nog enige uitbreiding. Eskom se mislukking raak elke aspek van die ekonomie, maar gelukkig is ons in die Weskaap vinnig besig om alternatiewe energiebronne aanlyn te bring. Die DA sal nie toelaat dat winsgewende besighede misluk en mense werk verloor net omdat Eskom nie hulle sake in orde kan kry nie. Ek dank u.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Good.
Thank you, Madam Chair of the House. The Mayor of Cape Town and the Honorable Premier reacted with great pride to the newly published unemployment rates and claimed that 56,000 new employment opportunities created in Cape Town were responsible for this good news. I would like to know from the Premier whether they included the following job opportunities in their calculations. The 1,000 learnership advertised in the Safety and Security Department, the 1,020 LEAP officers courtesy of the Western Cape Provincial Government offices on a fixed term contract. Does it include the Chrysalis Academy learners working within different government departments in a one-year stipend? The learner assistant at schools on fixed term contract, the thousands of EPWP workers in the city who are contracted or outsourced to third parties? Does it include those employed through the PEP program? You cannot build this province on casual or outsourced labor. while it might be true that the Western Cape has lowered its unemployment rate, it has lowered its wages too. This province has the highest housing rental rates in the country. It is also the province with the most people employed on stipends rather than salaries and earning income under 500 Rand a week. This makes it, on average, the most oppressive employing province in the country. This is glorifying entrenched slavery. I thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Order, honorable members. I now recognize ACTP. Honorable Chris, are you there? Okay, thank you very much. Now that ACDP is not responding, I now recognize ANC.
Thanks very much,
Before you,
Chairperson.
honorable member, Deputy Chief Whip.
Chair, while I'm not in the business of protecting other political parties, the member of the ACDP is overseas with the speaker and the deputy and the chief whip and the chief whip from the opposition as well. So it might be that, you know, in between the flight back that he's not able to log on.
Thank you, deputies. Deputy. Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip. We may proceed, Honorable Pat Maron.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I rise today to express my deep shock and disappointment at the DA-run Western Cape government's dismissal performance in delivering housing. The statistics shared by the department during the recent standing committee meeting to discuss the Department of Human Settlements' fourth quarterly performance report for the period January to March 2023 are truly shocking. Only 1,436 out of the 2,000 flip subsidies were provided, leaving many families in limbo. Only 3,672 out of the 6,213 breaking new ground houses have been delivered. And only 1,230 out of the 2,747 service sites have been provided. The DA government is also failing on its favorite program of title deeds transfer. Out of a target to transfer 10,182 title deeds, only 3,701 were transferred. The upgrade of informal settlements is also a low priority for the DA government. Only 1 out of the 6 informal settlements have been upgraded. This means that many people will continue living in informal settlements without access to basic services. This is a disgrace. The right to be a decent home is not a luxury, but a fundamental human right. By failing to deliver on the right, the DA is showing a glaring disregard for the poor, for the plight of the poor and marginalized. This is especially concerning at a time when our people continue to perish in informal settlement fires, whilst waiting for the promise of a house. One example is the recent STT informal settlement fire that claimed lives of residents who were waiting for houses in this Silverton emergency housing project that was delayed by the DA. The DA must shoulder the blame for these deaths, and it must not hide behind extortion for its failure to build houses. The people of the Western Cape deserve better.
You may conclude.
They deserve the ANC. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Maran. I now recognize the DA.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the recent taxi strike underscored the urgent need for the development of an integrated transport system in the Western Cape. Transport must extend beyond just taxis. It should encompass a network of taxis, buses, e-hailing, cycling, and trains. In this regard, considerable strides have been taken by DA governments towards realizing this vision. House Chair, what the taxi strike taught us is that we in this House should singularly focused on the restoration of the passenger rail system. Regrettably, I must add, our appeals have fallen on deaf ears as certain politicians prioritize party politics over the welfare of the people of South Africa. Just this week, Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis wrote to President Cyril Ramaphosa urging the establishment of a joint working committee dedicated to the devolution of passenger rail services. Shockingly, this request was met with silence. The repercussions of such neglect have led the city of Cape Town to rightfully initiate an intergovernmental dispute procedure. Moreover, the DA has taken necessary steps by formally reporting the National Minister of Transport, Ms. Sandisiwe Chikunga, to the Ethics Committee. It is concerning that she appeared to align herself with the taxi industry's demands, prioritizing the release of unroadworthy vehicles over ministerial obligation, that is, ensuring the roadworthiness of all vehicles on the road. The ANC approach to the recent taxi strike has been massively a flip-flop. Following the tragic car accident involving the death.
You may sit. Thank you.
Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member America. In terms of Rule 145.6, I now give an more member of the executive. Oh, sorry, I think I'm really tired. Let's go to Honorable Marais, Freedom Front Plus.
Thank you, sir. The Freedom Front Plus congratulates the trade union Solidarity. Congratulate them for having scored a major victory against the government's implementation of the proposed race-based employment equity legislation. Solidarity had referred the dispute to the International Labour Organization, and the courts ruled in their favor. The International Labour Organization recommended that the Commission for Conciliation and Mediation facilitate the dispute, and the parties have agreed that there will be made a court order that, number one, stipulate that no absolute barriers must be set for the employment or promotion of any race group, and that no one's employment may be terminated in any way as a result of racial programs, and race may not be used as a criteria, only skills. It is therefore with shock and dismay that a Freedom Front Plus notes media reports that the Cape Metro has refused to renew beach trading licenses of coloured beach ventures, and that they require you to stipulate your race now on application forms. And Mr. Cedra, his wife, and several other coloured traders has had their licenses rejected and not renewed after 20 years of trading on our beaches.
Honorable Marais, there is a point of order.
His point of order for statement as well.
He looks tired. He looks tired.
Please
you are not tired, you stupid man.
You may proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you. We further bemoan the fact that the race classification has now been made a point of point scoring criteria, where blacks get the most points, colored second most.
Your
and
time
whites
is up,
no
Honorable
points.
Member Marais. Thank you very much.
We must teach class.
I now
manners.
recognize Al Jama. Honorable Brengais, you may proceed.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, we are all relieved that the taxi strike has been called off, and we pray for further peaceful and reasonable solutions that would prevent similar horrific incidents and the disturbing manner with which the city of Cape Town dealt with the crisis. The Al Jama Party has given its support to its leader and Member of Parliament, Honorable Hanif Hendricks, to submit a private member's bill on transport to propose amendments to the Act to remove the powers which provinces and local governments have to implement provincial laws and bylaws. The Speaker of National Parliament has requested the Parliamentary Legislative Drafting Team to assist Honourable Hendricks with private members' bill. The first step will be to amend the Constitution to give national government full control on the conditions allowing the impounding of taxis. Al Jama wants an interim unit within the Department of Transport to speed up the minister's decision for a national structure to regulate the taxi industry in South Africa. Al Jama was deeply disturbed by the heavy-handedness of the city of Cape Town when dealing with offences committed by taxi operators. We are of the view that there are other measures
You
to
may
use
conclude,
when
Honorable
confronting
Member.
those disregard road safety. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. I'm finished.
Thank you very much, Al Jama. Thank you very much, Honorable Frangace. I now recognize the DA, Honorable Fry. You may proceed.
Thank you, House Chair. During a meeting of the Ad hoc Committee on the Energy Crisis on Friday, the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness revealed that there has been a 56% increase in all infrastructure emergencies at health facilities between the 22-23 and 23-24, with a specific increase of 140% in generator and electrical emergencies during the same period. Currently, 193 facilities across the province make use of generators for essential power supply during rolling blackouts. However, relentless load shedding hours has resulted in the extended use of generator capacity at health facilities, which comes with its share of challenges. The department stressed the point that generators are not designed to be default energy suppliers, and this has thus resulted in more frequent breakdowns and electrical emergencies. Some further operational challenges identified by the department in regards to the extended use of generators include delays in operations as procedures cannot go ahead when the facility is on generator power, the cost and availability of diesel, with the department already having spent 12 million rand between April and June this year, challenges in keeping up with planned maintenance as emergency maintenance occurs more frequently, and escalating costs of repairs. The department has taken steps to support generator operations during blackouts. Some interventions include the appointment of a second contractor to support the maintenance of generators and improved quality of oil used in generators to ensure longevity. The committee agreed that it is pleased by the department's proactive approach and its continued innovation and resilience to ensure quality services for patients in the Western Cape.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Fry. Now, in terms of Rule 145.6, I now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to member statement for not more than 5 minutes. Honorable Minister Summers, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. And indeed, I do rise just to correct the Honorable Marin, who's now not in the House. Quite befitting. Because Honorable House Chair, on Friday, I appeared before the Standing Committee, and I'm dumbstruck that an individual can attend the session and still get the figures wrong. It's not the first time, it's the second time, because even his statement the issue was wrong on Monday. Honorable House Chair, just as by way of example, in terms of the total BNG units that we've delivered, the figure the Honorable Member gives is totally incorrect. The number of units that we've delivered, including the Q4 figures, which he seemingly believes is the total annual figure, is well over 7,000 opportunities, Honorable House Chair. Second, Honorable House Chair, in terms of FLISP, once again, this is the leading province, but the Honorable Member once again got it totally wrong. Because in terms of the fourth quarter and our annual figure, the number which the Honorable Member quotes, and I'm quoting the audited figures, Honorable Member, Honorable House Speaker, through you, is actually that we've outperformed our own target. So I would encourage the member to remember that leaders are readers and are factual. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable
Thank you very
Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Perhaps we could offer the Honourable Maron some extra classes just to support him to get back on track. Yeah. Chairperson, on the question of NSFAS, I'd just like to remind the Honourable Member that NSFAS falls under national government. So to the extent that it may be failing students, and it is failing students, perhaps he would consider raising his concerns with his doomsday coalition partners sitting right there in this house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's out here? Must I allow you? You may rise.
No, I'm trying to respond to what the minister.
No, man.
Give me the chance to respond. Minister, honestly, you are dealing with Western Cape and the crisis is in
Honorable
Western Cape.
class. We need to go home. I know you miss each other. You
Honourable House
love,
Chair,
you
Honourable House
love
Chairperson,
each
there
other
was still
so
a
much, but we need to finish the business of the day.
Honourable House Chairperson, there was still a minute left
Let's
for the
move to
executive
the
statement.
notice of motion. That was the end of the member statements. Let's move to the notice of motions. In terms of the new rule 151, all notices of motion by members are required to be delivered to the secretary for placing it on the order paper. This motion has been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. Motions without notice, rule 150. We now move to motion without notice. I now recognize Member Musa, Member Sileko. Oh, must I finish? Oh. We now move to motions of notice. I would like to inform you that in terms of the new standing rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory were submitted in the programming authority prior to this plenary on the 15th August 2023. Members are reminded that motions without notice pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in these sittings that have not been proceeded by the programming committee. I have been informed that in the programming authority meeting on the 15th of August 2023, political parties did submit the names of honorable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in this sitting on the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purpose of the minutes, call out the honorable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the programming authority as follows: Honorable Kama, ANC Honorable AP Barnes, ANC Honorable AP Barnes, ANC Honorable Kama, ANC Honorable D. America, DA Honorable G. Bosman, DA. I now put the motion duly submitted and approved by the programming authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections, agreed to. The motions will appear in the minutes of proceeding and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if that member had read them loud. I will now afford the opportunity in members to move motions without notice as per standing rule 150.2 D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the programming authority meeting. Members are reminded that the 30 minutes as per standing committee rule 150.2 D will start now. I now recognize Honorable Sileku. Honorable Sileku, are you here?
Shalawendlu Manbulise. I move without notice that this House commends the Stellenbosch municipality for becoming the first municipality in the Western Cape to introduce a municipal inclusionary housing policy. This grants the opportunity for a more integrated, inclusive town centre in Stellenbosch. This inclusionary step is a massive one in the right direction and sets the stage for local businesses and corporates to also provide and support inclusionary opportunities that will now present themselves. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Sileku. Are there any objections? No objections. I now again recognize Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much. House Chair, I move that the House knows that the Western Cape government has allocated over R500 million this financial year alone for upgrading initiatives to improve informal settlements. Some settlements set for upgrading include Danun Airport Precincts, Kosovo Main, Thabo Mbeki, Belmont, Silverton, and many more. Further note, a significant sum of 506 million rand is being invested to provide essential services such as clean water, sanitation, electricity, and other basic amenities to our informal settlements this year. This will be funded by the Department of Infrastructure's 2023-2024 Informal Settlements Upgrade Partnership Grant. Further notes that there are 40 projects underway across the province, each at various stages of development. Notably, 10 of these projects are in the implementation phase and are set to deliver 2,007 service sites, while 3 projects are already providing basic services to their beneficiaries. The remaining projects are being prepared for the delivery over the medium-term expenditure framework period. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Maseko. Is there any objections? No objections, agreed to. I now recognize Honorable Maseko again.
Thank you very much. House Chair, I move that this House notes and comment Ms. Anita Arendse on being appointed as the first female chairperson at the Western Cape Rental Housing Tribunal. Notes that the Rental Housing Tribunal was established 22 years ago in 2001 in terms of the Rental Housing Act 50 of 1999 and has since played an important role in the rental housing sector in the Western Cape. Further notes that Ms. Arendse is a qualified attorney and conveyancer and will lead the board for the period of the 1st July 2023 to 30th June 2026. Also notes that Ms. Arendse previously held the position of presiding officer in the Western Cape Liquor Authority, was a director at a law firm, and was a prosecutor at the Western Cape Public Protector's Office. Notes that the citizens of the Western Cape can be confident that the Rental Housing Tribunal Board is in capable hands. And further notes that this is another example of defining moments for women. As a country, we still have a long way to go, but every stride made is an achievement to be celebrated by all. We need to find a way of celebrating women more as an integral part of a changing society that is still trying to get its identity. There is still more that needs to be achieved to empower women, and their celebration is in progress. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I move that this House knows that the Provincial Department of Infrastructure has allocated an overall budget of 2.25 billion over the medium term to Western Coast district municipalities. In total, 96 multi-year projects across the region are either underway or planned by the departments. Notes that investment in infrastructure can be a catalyst for economic development in the region. Further notes that some projects include the 529 million of the Malmesbury bypass project. The project will create 220 job opportunities and 37 SMMEs opportunities. Further notes that the two fast-track projects include repairs to the R303 in Citrusdal, a road that was reopened to traffic within 10 days after being washed away by recent flooding, and the Middlepost Primary School project, which will accommodate over 1,800 learners. Also notes that road infrastructure for the Saldanha IDZ will also be prioritized with Minister Tertius Simas officially launched the Saldanha IDZ access road. Construction of the 24 million rand projects commenced in September 2022. The early completion of the project further highlights the department's commitment to service delivery for jobs and economic opportunities to the benefit of our communities. Further notes that the Standing Committee on Infrastructure will embark on oversight visits to engage with all involved stakeholders to assess the progress of all the projects that are presently underway or in the process of implementation. This multi-year projects are projects that will instill dignity and hope in our communities. Infrastructure investment is crucial for sustainable development outcomes and key to economic growth. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Maseko. Any objections? Thank you. No objections. Agreed to. Honorable Bosman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable House Chairperson, I move that the House commends the Western Cape Government alongside their partners, the City of Cape Town, for successfully hosting the Netball World Cup. The historic event marked the first ever Netball World Cup to be hosted on African soil and will set a precedent for future major events to be hosted in the Western Cape. To ensure that everybody got a chance to watch the Netball World Cup in action, the department set up a number of viewing centres all across the province. Cape Town, Eden, Central Karoo, Overberg, Cape Winelands and the West Coast all had multiple viewing centres and they were an extreme success. This House further notes that there are hundreds of sporting and cultural events still set to take place in the province throughout the year, all of which will play an important role in nation building, job creation and economic growth. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Is there any objection to the motion?
Chairperson, we object that it's moved without notice.
I couldn't. Member, just repeat, I couldn't hear you.
I'm saying, Chair, we object that the motion is moved without notice.
Okay. That is not the motion will be on the order paper, will record it on the order paper. I now recognize Member Bosman.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I move without notice that the House congratulates both the Western Cape Government and the City of Cape Town for being announced as the host city for the UCI Mountain Bike World Championships in 2028. We have seen a bumper number of major sporting events hosted in the mother city in 2023, including the T20 Women's Cricket World Cup, the Netball Quad Series, the Women's Ice Hockey Championship, the Formula E and the Netball World Cup. Our province is fast becoming the hub of major sporting activities in the country, which brings an important economic boost to our shores. And that this House notes that large cycling events like the Cape Town Cycle Tour and the Cape Epic continue to be very popular. And in addition to the UCI World Championships, will boost cycling even more in the province and while boosting the economy and creating jobs. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Is there an objection to the motion? No objection.
Chairperson,
Member Kama?
we object that it's moved without notice.
There is an objection. The motion will be printed on the order paper. We continue with the motion. I recognize Honorable Member America.
Thank you, our Chair. Our Chair, I move without notice that this House notes that the Western Cape Mobility Department is currently recruiting traffic students for the completion of a further education and training certificate in road traffic law enforcement at the Jean Low Traffic College in Brackenfell. The deadline for this application is 28th of August 2023, and the 12-month training course will commence in January 2024. Two, that this House encourages young people to apply for this opportunity to learn from and potentially join the ranks of our provincial traffic services. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Are there any objections to the motion? Are there any objections? Agreed to. We are going to move to the motion by Member Seleko.
Fellow Endluman Bulele, I move without notice that this House condemns the destruction of the Swellendam municipal offices and looting of shops during violent and unlawful protest action, which saw 106 people being arrested, of whom 19 were minors. While we respect and acknowledge people's right to protest or to voice their dissatisfaction, this should never happen through the destruction of property or unlawful behavior, as was the case in Swellendam, which saw the municipal offices being set on fire. When municipal infrastructure is damaged or destroyed, all residents are affected. With the assistance of the Department of Local Government, additional firefighting equipment from the City of Cape Town could be redirected to Swellendam, and the provincial task team is being established to see how support can be offered to the municipality. This House further notes that there are currently rumors doing rounds that these violent protests were instigated by none other than the ANC. While these accusations are currently not confirmed, we will be requesting the South African Police Service to investigate these accusations so that those who are responsible can be held accountable. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is objection. The motion will be printed on the order paper. I now recognize Honorable Member Bosman.
Honorable House Chairperson, I move without notice that this House acknowledges and celebrates the significant contributions that Mr. Johar Mossaval made to the cultural fabric of the Western Cape. That the House acknowledges the passing of Mr. Johar Mossaval and extends its support and condolences to his friends and family. Johar was born in District 6 and faced substantial challenges under the apartheid system when he embarked on his dancing career in the 1940s. Regrettably, he was denied the opportunity to fully realize his potential in South Africa due to the restrictions imposed on accessing theatres and stages. In 1950, 2 visiting dancers recognized his talents and facilitated his scholarship to attend Sadler's-Wells Ballet School in London. He subsequently joined the Royal Ballet School and within a year graduated into the Royal Ballet Academy. In 1956, Johar was promoted to soloist and marked his debut with a solo performance during the coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at Covent Garden. Her audience included dignitaries and leaders from around the world. Johar's illustrious ballet career spanned 25 years as a principal dancer before his return to South Africa in 1976. In 1977, he established his own ballet school, which unfortunately was later forced to close. He stood as a genuine inspiration, garnering admiration from individuals across South Africa. May his memory endure as a testament to his legacy. I so move.
Thank you, member. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is no objections. Agreed to. We're going to continue. Member Nkondlo, I recognize you.
Thank you, House Chair. I move without notice that the House notes the reservations about the Provincial Powers Bill put forth by the Democratic Alliance. This proposed legislation has raised significant concerns among citizens who value the principle of unity and equity. The bill's potential to undermine the central authority of the national government, fragmenting our nation's cohesive policies and programs, is deeply troubling. Granting provinces substantial powers could exacerbate disparities
Member Nkondlo, we lost you.
Load shedding.
we have made towards ensuring equal opportunities for all South Africans.
Honorable Member
In these challenging
Nkondlo.
times, it is.
Member Nkondlo, we lost you a bit there. Can you start with your motion again, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, from the beginning.
Okay. Okay, thank you, House Chair. I move without notice that the House notes the reservation to the Provincial Powers Bill put forth by the Democratic Alliance. This proposed legislation has raised significant concerns among citizens who value the principles of unity and equity. The bill's potential to undermine the central authority of the national government, fragmenting our nation's cohesive policies and programs, is deeply troubling. Granting provinces substantial powers could exacerbate disparities and hinder coordinated efforts to address critical issues like healthcare, education, and social welfare. The envisioned devolution of authority may jeopardize the progress made towards ensuring equal opportunities for all South Africans. In these challenging times, it is paramount that we prioritize national unity and collaborative governance over measures that us. We call on the DA to reconsider the implications of the Provincial Powers Bill in light of our collective commitment for a stronger.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is objection. The motion will be printed on the order paper. We continue with the motions. The motion number 11 has been withdrawn by Member Darkmore, so we'll continue to the motion number 12. Honorable Member Kama.
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Continue, member.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, I move a motion without notice that the House notes the deeply troubling issue that persists in the Western Cape, the alarming disparity in land ownership, the fact that 72% of the land is owned by white individuals, while merely 1% is owned by black individuals, is a stark reminder of the ongoing legacy of injustice that plunges our nation. This chasm in land ownership raises significant concerns about the perpetuation of historical inequalities and the marginalization of vulnerable communities. We cannot ignore the echoes of apartheid era policies in these stark statistics. A period when land was systematically taken away from Black citizens, reinforcing systemic discrimination. Furthermore, we must address the disturbing parallels between the Democratic Alliance policies and those of the apartheid regime. The adoption of similar tactics, particularly in matters of the land ownership, is deeply disheartening and contradicts the spirit of progress and inclusivity that post-apartheid South Africa aspires to achieve. I so move, House Chair.
Thank you, member. Are there any objections to the motion being moved? There is objection. The motion will be printed on the order paper. We continue with the motion of Member Syed.
I thank you, Honorable Chair. I move without notice that the House remembers and draws inspiration from the exemplary leader of the South African anti-apartheid struggle and a revolutionary intellectual, Ruth First. She was murdered on this day in 1982 by the racist apartheid regime through a letter bomb whilst in exile in Mozambique. May her soul rest in peace, and may we build a better society by drawing on her legacy. I so move.
Thank you, Member. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. Honorable members, that concludes the motions without notice. And that concludes the business of the day. The secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the system. The House is adjourned.